Chapter 304. Who could injure Uncle Master Liang? Lu Ping was shocked when he heard the news. Liang Xianfeng was an 8th-layer core forging cultivator, one of the 7 core forging cultivators of Zhenling sect known as the Three Truths and Four Spirits. Liang Xianfeng had cultivated several types of wind elemental spells. Even if he was besieged by cultivators of the same level, even if he couldn't win, it wouldn't be difficult for him to escape. Chu Ting looked at Lu Ping's shocked and angry expression. She didn't know why Lu Ping was like this, but she still said, "It's a shame. We were being chased by the cultivators of the Crystal Palace, and we're at a disadvantage." However, Uncle Master Liang suddenly appeared and joined forces with Uncle Master Jiang to resist the attacks of the peak core forging cultivators from the Crystal Palace. However, the monsters attacked and Uncle Master Liang fought with several late core forging cultivators to protect me and second senior sister from breaking out. After we broke out, we saw Uncle Master Liang vomiting blood from his injuries. Lu Ping's face was gloomy as he flew towards Silver Sword Island with Chu Ting. Along the way, his mind raced. It seems like this Taoist Master Mei is closely related to the sect. But Junior Marshal Aunt Liang was willing to risk her life to protect her disciple. Could it be that this Taoist Master Mei and Junior Marshal Aunt Liang are related? Chu Ting followed Lu Ping back to Silver Sword Island. She saw Lu Ping looking around the inns, residences, and shops along the way. He was no longer as anxious and angry as before. At this moment, Lu Ping's face lit up with joy. He stopped in front of a shop and looked around nonchalantly. Then, he walked in with Chu Ting following behind him. "Uncle Master, how are your injuries?" Lu Ping's heart finally relaxed when he saw Liang Xianfeng. Although Liang Xuanfeng's face was pale, he could still heal himself. His life was not in danger. Zhu Xinming had long been ignored by Lu Ping. Lu Ping clearly felt that it was not worth it for Liang Xianfeng to be injured because of the 2 girls. He was also angry at Zhu Xinming and Chu Ting. When a cultivator reached the late core forging stage, their strength increased greatly. However, they were also at their weakest because they had to make the final preparations to condense their Dharma power. At this time, it was taboo for a cultivator to be injured. A little carelessness could affect the cultivator's foundation, causing the golden core to be unable to fuse with the divine will at the last moment to reach the ideal grade. This would weaken the cultivator's foundation after advancing to the Dharma power stage, reducing the possibility of a cultivator advancing to the Dharma power stage, or even completely cutting off a cultivator's hope of advancing to the Dharma power stage. Liang Xianfeng was one of the late core forging cultivators of Zhenling who had the highest chance of advancing to the Dharma power stage. He was Zhenling's future leader, Lao Zhu, and was related to Zhenling's legacy. Obtaining the Sky Wind Leaf could be said to be a great opportunity for Liang Xianfeng. If his golden core could not fuse with the Sky Wind Leaf because of his injuries, lowering the final grade of his golden core, it would be a huge loss for Zhenling. Zhu Xinming saw that after Lu Ping entered the cultivation room, he did not look him in the eye. When he saw his 5th junior sister following behind him, he naturally knew that Lu Ping was blaming them for dragging Liang Xianfeng down. He wanted to explain, but he opened his mouth, but no words came out. Liang Xianfeng opened his eyes and heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that Lu Ping had returned unharmed. He said, "This expedition was supposed to give you all some benefits, but I didn't expect the East Sea Demon tribe to interfere. It seems like the East Sea is not peaceful anymore. Fortunately, the 3 of you are safe and sound, or else I would be a sinner." The 3 of them said that they did not dare. Then, Lu Ping asked, "Uncle Master, how is your injury? Will it affect?" Liang Xianfeng naturally understood what Lu Ping meant. Zhu Xinming and Chu Ting were also very nervous. Reverend Liang Xianfeng smiled bitterly. "I didn't expect Water Crystal Palace's Yao Wanshan's cultivation to have reached such a level. After he was defeated by senior apprentice brother Jiang back then, it could be said that he became courageous after being humiliated. Although his cultivation is a step behind senior apprentice brother Jiang, his strength is not low at all. If it wasn't for the fact that he used up too much of his transcendence energy, the demon cultivators who came later wouldn't have taken advantage of him." The 3 of them were shocked when they heard Liang Xuanfeng's last sentence. Clearly, the thing that Lu Ping did not want to happen the most had happened. Chu Ting was full of guilt while Zhu Xinming was on the verge of tears. Lu Ping glanced at the 2 of them in disgust. Uncle Master, is there any way to remedy this? Lu Ping's expression naturally did not escape Liang Xuanfeng's eyes. He thought to himself, this child's character is very similar to my senior sister's. He always distinguishes between his own people and outsiders. It's just that he is a little narrow-minded. It's just that what happened back then. Liang Xianfeng saw the sincerity in Lu Ping's question and smiled happily. It's fine. Actually, I had already prepared a high-grade Earth-level Heaven and Earth Spirit item. It was only because I heard about the Tianfeng leaf that I decided to take a gamble. Unfortunately, I still lack some opportunities. Obtaining the Heaven and Earth Spirit item damaged my foundation. In the end, I could only use the original high-grade Earth-level Heaven and Earth Spirit item to make up for the loss of my divine will. However, I believe that with my skills, even if I can only form a 6th-grade golden essence, I have the confidence to break through to the Dharma stage. Lu Ping said fiercely, how can this be compared? If Uncle Master fuses with a sky-level Heaven and Earth Spirit item, you can at least form a 7th-grade golden essence. Not only will you be able to form a Dharma power, but you will also be able to enter the mid-Dharma stage in the future. If it's only a 6th-grade golden essence, you will only be an early Dharma adept for the rest of your life. You will still be at the bottom of the Dharma adepts. Ever since Lu Ping had entered the core forging stage, he had a deeper understanding of the all-encompassing North Sea wave listening technique. Many of the unresolved problems had been easily solved by Lu Ping's eyes. In addition, Lu Ping had been asking Liang Xianfeng for advice on training over the past few days. His knowledge and experience were no longer the same as when he was a blood condensation adept. After Lu Ping's words, Liang Xianfeng sighed and did not say another word. Zhu Xianming and Chu Ting were sitting on pins and needles. For a moment, the training room fell silent. At this moment, Lu Ping suddenly said, Uncle Master, if you have the help of the spirit forging pill, can you reach the level of forging the Skywind leaf? Zhu Xianming and Chu Ting looked at Lu Ping in shock. Liang Xianfeng smiled and said, I know what you want to say, but the spirit forging pills have already been distributed by Lao Zhu to a few seniors who have already reached the peak of the core forging stage. Besides, there's not enough time. Lu Ping's expression became even darker. At this moment, Chu Ting said, there's another pill that might be able to save Uncle Master Liang. Liang Xianfeng asked in surprise, she even passed the bell cauldron pill to you? Although Liang Xianfeng was asking Chu Ting, he was looking at Zhu Xianming. Lu Ping could see that Zhu Xianming and Liang Xianfeng seemed to be closer, but Chu Ting was very unfamiliar with Liang Xianfeng. Zhu Xianming nodded and said, 5th junior sister is Master's only disciple. Master has already passed on all the pill recipes below the Dharma stage to 5th junior sister. Just as Lu Ping's heart was burning with hope, he heard Zhu Xianming say worriedly, although the bell cauldron pill can restore the root of Uncle Master's injury, 5th junior sister's current alchemy skills are not able to make this kind of pill with 4 to 5 kinds of 3,000-year-old spirit herbs. Master is also in seclusion in the Northern Alliance. It's too late to invite Master over. Liang Xianfeng had obviously thought of this. When he heard this, he said indifferently, it's okay. Uncle Master doesn't have any hope of reaching the 7th-grade golden core. Being able to enter the Dharma stage is already an achievement for most late-stage core forging cultivators. How do you know if you don't try? Lu Ping's spirit was lifted at this moment, and he said, in any case, there are 2 Grandmaster alchemists here. Although they have just broken through, there's still hope. If they can refine one, won't Martial Uncle be saved? Liang Xianfeng waved his hand and said, you don't know how difficult it is to make this kind of pill. Although I am not an alchemy master, where are you going to find those kinds of 3,000-year-old spirit herbs? Moreover, there are dozens of kinds of 1,000-year-old spirit herbs. Chu Ting was also sad. Obviously, she was not confident that she could make this kind of pill, nor did she have enough spirit herbs. Give me the recipe. Lu Ping's words surprised the 3 of them. Zhu Xianming could not help but ask, Junior Brother Lu, do you have the 3,000-year-old spirit herbs to make the bell cauldron pill? Lu Ping naturally knew about the bell cauldron pill. Lu Ping also knew about the kinds of spirit herbs needed to make it. In fact, in the alchemy world, most of the spirit herbs needed to make pills were public. The importance of the recipe was not in the type of spirit herbs needed to make the pill, but the process of making the pill. This was the secret of the recipe. Otherwise, how could alchemy masters collect the spirit herbs from ordinary cultivators? Therefore, Zhu Ximing directly asked Lu Ping if he had the 3,000-year-old spirit herbs instead of asking how he knew about the spirit herbs needed to make the Bell Cauldron pill. Lu Ping found a sealed 3,000-year-old spirit herb garden halfway up the lonely mountain in the Golden House. There were nearly 100 mature 3,000-year-old spirit herbs, among which were the 4 kinds of 3,000-year-old spirit herbs needed to make the Bell Cauldron pill. When Liang Xianfeng saw that Lu Ping accepted the recipe from Chu Ting's jade slip, he was surprised that he had the 3,000-year-old spirit herbs. But he still said, "Nonsense. How long has it been since you became an alchemy master? You've only made a few cauldrons of core forging stage pills. How dare you make such a high-level pill? 3,000-year-old spirit herbs can't be wasted like this." Lu Ping suddenly snickered and said, "Martial uncle, you're right. Up until now, I've only concocted 5 or 6 cauldrons of early core forging medicinal pellets. It's not because I don't have any spirit herbs. It's because I, a great grandmaster alchemist, only have 3 or 4 core forging medicinal pellet recipes." Lu Ping was trying to reap some benefits, but it was hard for others to adapt to the sudden change in attitude. Liang Xianfeng knew that Lu Ping had made up his mind to make the Bell Cauldron pill. Asking for some benefits now was just an act of flattery. Although he was touched, he still laughed and said, "What a joke. I, an alchemy master like Shenling, only have this little bit of accumulation. If this gets out, people will laugh at me for neglecting talents." Then, Liang Xianfeng took out 4 jade slips, 3 jade crystal boxes, and 2 jade marrow boxes. He said, "These 4 jade slips are the core forging stage pill recipes that I've collected for the past few years. I've already exchanged my collection for pills. I only have 4 jade slips, and one of them was obtained from the heavy, profound palace. I was planning to exchange it for a few pills from the alchemy pavilion when I returned to the sect. But now, you and these spirit herbs will benefit from it. But don't forget me if your alchemy skills can reach the late core forging stage in the future." Chapter 305. Lu Ping took a quick look at the recipes. There were 2 recipes for early-stage core forging pills, one for mid-stage core forging pills, and one for late-stage core forging pills. The 3 jade crystal boxes contained about 60 to 70 stalks of 1,000-year-old spirit herbs, and the 2 jade marrow boxes contained nearly 30 stalks of 3,000-year-old spirit herbs. Among them, there were 2 stalks of stonegrass and blood-rot flower, which were used to concoct the Zhongding pill. Lu Ping put these things into his storage ring with a peace of mind. He smiled and said, "Uncle Master, you must be joking. This time, I will definitely take advantage of you. I'm afraid that before I can refine late-stage core forging pills, Uncle Master will have already advanced to the transcendent stage. If I continue to concoct pills, I will have to trouble Tianlu Laozu, the only alchemy grandmaster in our sect." When Zhu Xinming heard Lu Ping mention Tianlu Laozu, she immediately looked up at Lu Ping and saw that Lu Ping was also looking at her. Neither of them spoke, but it was as if they could see something in each other's eyes. Liang Xianfeng looked at the 2 of them with a trace of worry in his eyes, but he didn't say anything. After Lu Ping finished speaking, he said, "Uncle Master, I'll go and study this Zhongding pill first. No matter what, I have to give it a try. If I succeed by luck, and Uncle Master becomes the Transcendence Laozu in the future, I will also be able to cling to a big tree." Liang Xianfeng laughed and scolded, "Do you still need to cling to my thigh? You should think about what gift to prepare for your master's Dharma assembly first." In another practice room, after Lu Ping ordered everyone not to disturb him, he opened the Golden House and went in. Chu Ting originally wanted to lend him her high-grade alchemy furnace and bright yellow fire seed, but Lu Ping politely declined. However, Lu Ping asked for some of the black powder that Chu Ting used to increase the power of the fire. On top of Lonely Mountain, Lu Ping had built a small house. Lu Qin and Luan Yu were flying up and down in the sky above the Golden House. In the grass far away, there were 3 large snakes that were more than 30 meters long and as thick as water buckets playing. De Bao had long gone to open up his underground palace, and only De Gue was still loyal to Lu Ping. However, he was quite comfortable soaking in the mutated spirit pool. In the distance, Lu Qin and Luan Yu had made 2 nests on the branches of the peach blossom tree. The demonic aura on the peach blossom tree was getting thicker and thicker. The amount of spiritual energy it absorbed was already close to that of a late blood condensation cultivator. However, Lu Ping still hadn't found a cultivation technique that could be used to cultivate plants. The black powder Chu Ting gave Lu Ping was actually a type of powder made from a second-grade top-grade spirit material that was burned into charcoal. This kind of powder had a great effect on increasing the intensity and burst of fire. It was also a common method used in alchemy. For example, Luan Yu once used a piece of wudong wood to enhance the fire seed's power during the elixir gathering. Lu Ping looked at the peach blossom tree and took out 2 branches that fell from the peach blossom tree from his storage ring. Due to the influence of the psychic wood, these branches were genuine second-grade mutated spiritual materials. In the hands of a smithing master, they were treasures that could be turned into magic treasures. It was a waste to use them to make charcoal. However, it was worth it to use a small amount of them to exchange for a batch of important pills. The azure spiritual fire, the Na Chuan cauldron, the spirit explosion technique, the purification technique, the herb pestle, the charcoal, the amethyst royal jelly, the high-grade spirit stone, and the 2 sets of spiritual herbs that Lu Ping barely managed to gather to refine the Bell Cauldron pill. Lu Ping was taking a gamble. As long as he could refine 1 Bell Cauldron pill, he would be able to make up for perfected Liang Xuanfeng's damaged foundation. However, Lu Ping only had 5 to 6 days. Once the time was up, perfected Liang Xianfeng would have no hope of restoring his foundation. However, exchanging 2 sets of incomparably precious spiritual herbs for 1 Bell Cauldron pill was a wasteful act in the eyes of any cultivator. However, it was clear that Lu Ping did not have such an awareness. 5 to 6 days was only enough for Lu Ping to refine 2 batches of Bell Cauldron pill. Therefore, there was no need for Lu Ping to prepare the 3rd batch of spiritual herbs for the Bell Cauldron pill. This time, Lu Ping personally used the herb pestle to grind the spiritual herbs. He warmed the cauldron, opened the cauldron, added the herbs, controlled the fire, and melted the herbs. However, the heat of the flames was insufficient. It was not because the azure spiritual fire's grade was low, but because Lu Ping's water attribute cultivation technique could not fully unleash the power of the azure spiritual fire. The charcoal was scattered into the fire seed. The spirit fire rose, and the melting was successful. The purification technique was still powerful, and the entire process of refining the medicinal liquid was smooth. When condensing the pill, the medicinal liquid required a large amount of spiritual energy. However, at this time, a problem appeared. Lu Ping's abundant true essence was still sufficient. However, the process of condensing the pill required an explosive absorption of spiritual energy. Lu Ping's water attribute cultivation technique did not have enough time to switch. Even though Lu Ping used the spirit explosion technique to explode 3 high-grade spirit stones in one go, it was still to no avail. The first batch of Bell Cauldron pill was a complete failure. Lu Ping's expression was emotionless. This was within his expectations. After all, the Bell Cauldron pill was too difficult to refine. Failure was normal. Success was actually a fluke. After recalling the entire process of refining the first batch of Bell Cauldron pill, Lu Ping recovered the true essence in his body. He adjusted himself to his best condition and began his second attempt to refine the Bell Cauldron pill. Warmed the cauldron, opened the cauldron, added the herbs, controlled the fire, and melted the herbs. The charcoal powder made from spiritual materials was scattered into the azure spiritual fire. The fire rose sharply, and the medicinal liquid was successfully melted. Medicinal liquid purification. Lu Ping mobilized the true essence in his body and transformed it. Although a large amount of true essence was wasted, Lu Ping remained unmoved. The true essence in his body rapidly decreased. Success or failure depended on this one move. 6 high-grade spirit stones exploded. Lu Ping only had 2 high-grade spirit stones left. For liquid pills began to condense. Lu Ping decisively shattered 2 of them. The spiritual energy contained in them was quickly absorbed by the other 2 pills that were still in the process of condensing. 2 drops of viscous golden liquid, exuding a strong floral fragrance, fell into the cauldron. Under the control of Lu Ping's divine sense, they directly entered the two remaining pills. Purple crystal royal jelly. Lu Ping's divine sense wrapped around the two pills that were in the process of condensing. His divine sense was rapidly being consumed. Spiritual ignition. This was the last and most important step in refining pills above the core forging stage. Every pill above the core forging stage had its own spiritual nature. The higher the grade of the pill, the more difficult it was to refine. In addition to the spirit grass itself, the most important factor was the final process of making the pill's spiritual nature. One of the important purposes of core forging stage cultivation was to fuse the divine sense into the golden core, endow the golden core with a strong spiritual nature, and finally give birth to the Dharma idol. The higher the grade of the pill, the more spiritual nature it would have after refining it, and the greater the consumption of the alchemist's divine sense. Even with Lu Ping's divine sense cultivation, which was almost at the middle stage of the core forging stage, he still felt powerless against the consumption of divine sense. Of course, the most important reason was that Lu Ping's alchemy skills were shallow. He didn't have the slightest experience in refining such a high-grade pill, which resulted in a lot of waste. Perfected Liang Xianfeng was leisurely looking at the contents of one of the jade slips. When Zhu Xinming and Chu Ting, who were at the side, saw Lu Ping's appearance, they did not think that Lu Ping could create a miracle, and their faces immediately darkened. "You're out." Perfected Liang Xianfeng greeted happily when he saw Lu Ping coming out. "Come here quickly. I've definitely made a huge profit from this trip to the heavy mystery hall under the nose of Skyrind and the Crystal Palace. I'll give you a few jade slips to take a look, and I guarantee that you'll be grateful." Lu Ping sighed. Perfected Liang Xuanfeng's state of mind was far from what he could compare to. If he became like this, he might resent the two people beside him. Lu Ping reached out and handed a jade essence bottle to Perfected Liang Xianfeng and said, "Uncle Master, I only refined one." Chapter 306. As soon as Lu Ping finished speaking, Zhu Xinming and Chu Ting, who were behind him, suddenly raised their heads. Their faces were full of disbelief as they stared at Lu Ping's back with a hint of horror in their eyes. Perfected Liang Xianfeng looked at Lu Ping in a daze, then let out a laugh. "Good lad, I didn't expect you to be able to do this." Lu Ping smiled and did not say anything. He saw a hint of surprise in Perfected Liang Xuanfeng's eyes. Come. Let's take a look at this jade scroll first." Perfected Liang Xianfeng put the Zhongding pill aside and handed a jade scroll to Lu Ping. "Take a look at this first." Lu Ping saw that Perfected Liang Xianfeng was very serious about handing the jade scroll to him. He did not urge him to go into seclusion to refine the Zhongding pill to recover from his injuries. Instead, he took the jade scroll in his hand and read its contents. As soon as he touched the contents of the jade scroll, Lu Ping was shocked. He immediately looked up at Perfected Liang Xianfeng and only continued reading when he saw Perfected Liang Xianfeng nod. After a long time, Lu Ping looked at Perfected Liang Xianfeng solemnly. "I didn't expect Uncle Master to have obtained this jade scroll. Now, I, Zhenling, will have one more of the 5 true techniques." Perfected Liang Xianfeng laughed. "It's not as simple as you make it out to be. To be able to become a true technique of our sect, other than perfecting it all the way to the late Dharma stage, the most important thing is for a cultivator to practice this technique and eventually reach the late Dharma stage." Zhenling's Lin-Hai wave listening technique was originally a legacy that Zhenling had obtained from the failing sect when he participated in the extermination of the failing sect. However, this legacy was incomplete and could only be practiced to the Dharma stage. Later on, Zhenling's successive generations of Laozu perfected it, but it could only be practiced to the mid-Dharma stage. As such, although the Lin-Hai wave listening technique was Zhenling's true technique, it could not be compared to the 5 true techniques. Although Lu Ping had a solemn expression on the surface, his heart was already overjoyed. The jade slip in his hand was the complete Lin-Hai wave listening technique. As the saying goes, wear out iron shoes in fruitless search, but find it by chance without even looking for it. This time, Perfected Liang Xianfeng followed many cultivators into the heavy mystery palace. Relying on his flying ability, he rushed to Skyrind and the Crystal Palace and snatched several jade slips from under the noses of the cultivators of the 2 sections. Among them, The most important one was the complete Lin-Hai wave listening technique. Liang Xianfeng said, legend has it that failing sect has two water attribute techniques. One is the Lin-Hai wave listening technique, which is also the most widely spread water attribute technique in failing sect. The other one is rarely practiced. It's said that it's too violent and overbearing for ordinary cultivators to control. Moreover, after the core forging stage, every step forward is extremely difficult. Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat, but he pretended to be extremely interested and said, Uncle Master, what's the name of this technique? What's the difficulty in cultivating it? Perfected Liang Xianfeng shook his head and said, I don't know about that. When failing sect was destroyed back then, many of the famous techniques in the sect were either lost or divided by the various sects in the North Sea. Only this technique was missing. Although it's famous, it has never appeared in front of others. Lu Ping was a little disappointed, but perfected Liang Xianfeng continued, with the complete Lin-Hai wave listening technique, I believe it's only a matter of time before this technique becomes the sixth true technique of our sect. Perhaps it'll be realized by your master. Previously, perfected Liang Xianfeng had been intentionally or unintentionally avoiding something in front of Zhu Xianming. After seeing Chu Ting, he was even unwilling to mention it to Zhenling. This time, when perfected Liang Xianfeng mentioned his master, Lu Ping smiled and asked, Uncle Master mentioned that you want me to prepare a gift for the Dharma meeting for Master. I've been in East Sea for the past few years and haven't served Master. Has Master advanced to the Dharma stage? When Zhu Xianming heard Lu Ping's words, her eyelids twitched, but she did not show any expression. Chu Ting, on the other hand, looked surprised. Obviously, Lu Ping had a master who was about to become Dharma Laozu. Perfected Liang Xianfeng unintentionally glanced at Zhu Xianming, but it did not escape Lu Ping's eyes. He heard perfected Liang Xianfeng say, Your master has already condensed the third heaven and earth spiritual item and achieved a high-grade golden elixir. Advancing to the Dharma stage is almost a matter of time. When that time comes, I, Zhenling, will have the ninth Dharma Laozu. Perfected Liang Xianfeng refined the Bell Cauldron elixir to recover from his injuries and at the same time replenish the damaged foundation of his body. He temporarily went into seclusion in this inn. Before he went into seclusion, perfected Liang Xianfeng gave Lu Ping a jade scroll. On it was recorded the 18 Mary swords, one of the Xianling sect's signature sword techniques that Lu Ping had asked him for. Although this sword technique was of the wind attribute and was incompatible with Lu Ping's cultivation method, this sword technique was broad and profound. Although it only had the cultivation method of the artistic conception, there was no higher-level cultivation method of swordsmanship. However, the essence of swordsmanship contained in it was enough for Lu Ping to use as a reference. While Lu Ping was studying swordsmanship, the situation in the East Sea changed greatly. The confrontation between the human and demon cultivators in the East Sea became more and more intense. The reason was that after the opening of the Zhongxian cave, the demon cultivators ambushed Skyrend, the Crystal Palace, and a group of mysterious female cultivators outside the Zhongxian cave, causing 7 human core forging cultivators to fall. Among them, 3 were from the Crystal Palace, 2 each from Skyrend, and the group of mysterious female cultivators. At the same time, when the demon race cultivators sent cultivators into the profound immortal cave to plunder the treasures, they also destroyed the great array of the immortal cave. If not for a mysterious cultivator seeing through it, the core forging cultivators in the immortal cave would have been wiped out. Even so, after the great array of the immortal cave collapsed, nearly 20 core forging cultivators died, and more than 10 cultivators were seriously injured. Just after the uproar in the East Sea, the news came that the Crystal Palace had issued a wanted order for a mysterious cultivator force called Boudoir in the East Sea. The special thing about this force was that most of the cultivators in this force were female cultivators. This made the cultivators in the East Sea immediately connect the Boudoir with the group of mysterious female cultivators who were also ambushed by the Demon Clan. At the same time, the Crystal Palace also issued a wanted order for a late-stage core forging cultivator who cultivated the wind attribute. However, after the Crystal Palace announced the wanted order for the Boudoir, a rumor once again spread among the cultivators in the East Sea. After the opening of the Zhongxian cave, 5 people from the Crystal Palace died in the cave. 4 of them were ambushed by the boudoir. The East Sea was shocked again. 8 core forging cultivators died in a row. Even the powerful Crystal Palace couldn't bear it. No wonder the Crystal Palace issued a wanted order for the boudoir cultivators to be killed in the entire East Sea. At the same time, news came from the Crystal Palace. This time, the Crystal Palace obtained 2 of the 4 treasures of Zhongxian in the Zhongxian Cave, the magic treasure Zhongxian Furnace and the Earth-rank high-rank Purple Fire. After the Purple Fire was ambushed, it was taken away by the Demon Clan cultivators. However, the other 2 of the 4 treasures of Zhongxian that people were concerned about were not obtained by the Sky-Breaking Sword Sect. This time, the Sky-Breaking Sword Sect had opened the storage room of the residents of Zhongxian and obtained a large amount of spiritual materials. Among them, there was no lack of top-grade spiritual materials of 2nd and 3rd grade, and a few magical treasures made by Patriarch Zhongxian. When the East Sea cultivators were guessing who got the other 2 treasures, the Crystal Palace released another news that Lao Zhu of Zhongxian had a space celestial device which was used to open up a spiritual herb garden, and the other 2 treasures should be in it. 4 cultivators of the Crystal Palace had found this space celestial device, but they were killed by the cultivators of the boudoir, and the space celestial device was taken away. The mysterious boudoir, beautiful female cultivators, space celestial device, the spiritual herb garden that no one had cared about for thousands of years, Skywind leaves, Xianyuan heavy water, and the wanted reward of the Crystal Palace. For a while, the boudoir became the focus of the East Sea cultivators. Several organizations of female cultivators in the East Sea were attacked, and many female cultivators disappeared, died, or were kidnapped. Some of them might be members of the boudoir, but most of them were robbed. When the boudoir was being attacked by the Crystal Palace, the demon cultivators launched another attack on the humans of the East Sea. The snake demons of the East Sea attacked the Shangguan family, rising medium-sized force under the jurisdiction of the Northern Alliance. The Drum Bell Island where the family was located was slaughtered by the snake demons, and only an heir of the family named Shangguan Hao escaped. When the news came, the East Sea was shocked again. If the demon cultivators ambushed the human cultivators in the cave of Zhongxian were for the treasures, then this time the snake demons attacked the Drum Bell Island and slaughtered the Shangguan family. It was a provocation to the human cultivators. After hearing the name of Shangguan Hao from Chu Ting, Lu Ping suddenly thought of the masked cultivator in linen clothes who attacked him on the way back from the listening small building. Could it be Shangguan Hao? Because of him, the Shangguan family not only lost Yu Zhongrui, the alchemist who was the best alchemist in the Northern Alliance, but also had to compensate the Li family with a spiritual mine. Li Xiuzhu, whom Shangguan Hao had always admired, was completely hopeless. Shangguan Hao had every reason to kill him. But why did the snake demons attack the Drum Bell Island? Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat. Was it because of the 3 spirits? Lu Ping shook his head. Obviously, Shangguan Hao did not recognize the identity of Samling's green sea snake. Otherwise, the snake demons would not have slaughtered the entire Drum Bell Island. The news that he had the green sea snake was probably already known by everyone. So, there should be someone who was present on the day of the robbery, and this person might be a demon cultivator who knew the green sea snake. However, because of the formation, no one could see what was going on inside. Shangguan Hao's cultivation was the highest, and Lu Ping himself had used a pill to cut off his scent and other tracking clues. The demon race mistakenly thought that the green sea snake was with him. Lu Ping speculated about what happened at that time. Now he was worried that Shangguan Hao would recover from the disaster and spread the news that he had the green sea snake. Then, the cultivator who was being chased by the snake demons in the East Sea would probably be himself. Chu Ting, who was on the side, saw that Lu Ping was distracted. She frowned and said, "This time, the demon race suddenly attacked, and the situation in the East Sea is in chaos. It is a good opportunity for us. The plan to expel the Wang family from the fallen secret land must be carried out in advance." Chapter 307. Hearing Chu Ting's words, Lu Ping looked at her strangely and said, "Now the situation of the boudoir is not very good. If they do it again in the fallen mystery land, aren't they afraid that they will become the target of public criticism?" Chu Ting said confidently, "Don't worry. Now the situation between humans and demons in the East Sea is getting more and more serious. Many cultivators have been in constant conflict with the demon cultivators in the outer sea. Small-scale fights are everywhere. The boudoir hides deeper than you think. Once the war between humans and demons breaks out, the top priority is to unite all the human cultivators to fight against the demons. If not, the Crystal Palace will not destroy themselves. At that time, the boudoir can take advantage of the situation and establish their own sect. It is not impossible for them to become the sixth sect in the East Sea. Lu Ping was a little speechless, but from Chu Ting's words, he could tell that the boudoir was much stronger than he had imagined. If the boudoir really took advantage of the war between the human and monster races and made great contributions in the war, the five great sects wouldn't have an excuse to join forces to destroy the boudoir after the war. However, it was inevitable that the boudoir would be suppressed. Of course, the premise of all this was that the boudoir had enough power to protect itself. Obviously, Chu Ting believed that the boudoir had this power. What about the Northern Alliance? Lu Ping asked. After all, nominally, the Wang family is still one of the 36 medium-sized forces belonging to the Northern Alliance. If we act rashly and alarm the Northern Alliance, we will lose more than we gain. The Northern Alliance and our boudoir have been in contact for a long time. What's more, it is no secret that the Wang family defected to the Crystal Palace. It is just that the Northern Alliance and the Crystal Palace have their own scruples, and no one is willing to fall out with each other. At this time, if we jump out and become the spear of the Northern Alliance, according to the rules of the Northern Alliance, we can challenge the Wang family's position in the Northern Alliance. The Northern Alliance will be more than happy to do that. Besides, this time, you are the nominal leader, and it has nothing to do with my boudoir. For the sake of your alchemy master, the Northern Alliance will not make things too difficult for us. Since I'm here, how can my faction compete with the Wang family? If I expel the Wang family, will this faction still be under my control? This was what Lu Ping was concerned about. After all, the Wang clan of the Three Clans Island had 4 enlightened masters. With Lu Ping's experience on Soundwave Island, he was far from a match for them. Even with Qi Lianying, there were only 2 enlightened masters. Moreover, they were only at the first layer of the core forging realm. How could they be a match for the Wang clan that had been operating for hundreds of years? Even if Lu Ping had the help of the boudoir and the Li family, and won with the consent of the Northern Alliance, how could the force that helped Lu Ping be under Lu Ping's control? Brother Lu, you're not from the Eastern Sea after all. You'll have to leave the Eastern Sea sooner or later. As long as you expel the Wang clan, even if this faction changes hands, you'll still be able to make a profit. Chu Ting's words were very clear. This was not Lu Ping's base. Lu Ping was only a spokesperson of the boudoir. After everything was over, Lu Ping could leave with the benefits, but the boudoir of the Wang clan would never let go of the fallen mystery land. How much do you know about your teacher, Miss Chu? Lu Ping changed the topic. I know what you're going to say, Brother Lu. Chu Ting picked up the spiritual tea beside her and took a sip. She continued, Teacher might be closely related to your sect, but he has left the Northern Sea and is now one of the elders in charge of the boudoir. My younger sister is also one of the 24 pavilion masters of the boudoir. My younger sister naturally takes the boudoir as her foothold when she does things. I believe that Teacher is the same. Miss Chu, are you so sure that you won't be able to do it once you leave the boudoir? Lu Ping asked unhurriedly. He then said, the boudoir can provide help and the benefits can be distributed, but the force must be under my control. Once it's done, the experts of the boudoir will immediately leave. Chu Ting looked into Lu Ping's eyes and asked, Brother Lu, are you so confident that you can still hold on to the territory after the boudoir leaves? Even Uncle Master Liang Xianfeng can't stay in the fallen mystery land forever, right? Lu Ping looked at Chu Ting and smiled. Maybe we don't need the boudoir to do anything. We can also expel the Wang clan, but it might take a little longer. Since they could expel the Wang clan, they could naturally defend it. Perfected Liang Xianfeng had been in seclusion for more than a month. Logically speaking, he should have already refined the Bell Cauldron pill and recovered his foundation. Just as Lu Ping was wondering if there would be any changes, he felt the spiritual qi in the surroundings suddenly become restless and slowly flowed towards perfected Liang Xuanfeng's cultivation room. Lu Ping was overjoyed and quickly walked towards perfected Liang Xuanfeng's cultivation room. Zhu Xinming and Chu Ting obviously also noticed the change and perfected Liang Xuanfeng's cultivation room. Not long after Lu Ping arrived, they also rushed over. Perfected Liang Xianfeng had clearly encountered an opportunity to break through. A wave of spiritual qi that was far purer and gentler than before exploded and went directly into perfected Liang Xuanfeng's body. Enlightened Master Liang Xuanfeng's expression turned serious. With a thought, the floor of the cultivation room was covered with a layer of spirit stones. Lu Ping took a quick look and found that there were at least 4,000 to 5,000 mid-grade spirit stones, not to mention low-grade spirit stones. In the middle, there were about 20 to 30 large, crystal-clear high-grade spirit stones. Lu Ping wrapped 100 mid-grade spirit stones with his spiritual sense and used the spirit explosion technique again. A small spiritual qi storm appeared in the cultivation room and formed a shallow spiritual qi vortex around perfected Liang Xuanfeng's body. Lu Ping didn't dare to be negligent. He used the spirit explosion technique one after another. Each time, he used 100 mid-grade spirit stones. After more than 40 times, he exploded all the mid-grade spirit stones on the ground and crushed thousands of low-grade spirit stones as well. The ground was covered with the remains of spirit stones that had turned into white powder. Although this still caused a lot of waste, it was many times better than simply crushing the spirit stones. At the very least, the situation of perfected Liang Xuanfeng's breakthrough was getting better. The aura around his body was also getting stronger. It was as if his entire body was covered by a gust of wind, and he was about to turn into a feather and ascend to the sky. Lu Ping looked at the 28 high-grade spirit stones on the ground covetously, but he didn't hesitate at all. This was the critical moment for perfected Liang Xuanfeng's breakthrough. Lu Ping used the spirit explosion technique on 3 of the high-grade spirit stones and exploded them. A spiritual qi that was far denser than before fused with perfected Liang Xianfeng, who was about to turn into wind. Lu Ping used the spirit explosion technique 7 times again. Only 4 of the 28 high-grade spirit stones were left. Perfected Liang Xianfeng, who seemed to be floating in the breeze, finally became a perfected person again. A burst of pressure flashed past. It was obvious that perfected Liang Xianfeng had quickly adapted to the enhanced spiritual force and true essence after his breakthrough. In an instant, he regained control of his spiritual force. Then, perfected Liang Xianfeng opened his eyes and looked at the layer of spirit stone powder on the ground. The corners of his mouth twitched. Seeing that Lu Ping's spiritual force was about to use the spirit explosion technique on the 3 high-grade spirit stones again, perfected Liang Xianfeng said anxiously, "Enough, enough. This is the last bit of your Uncle Master's wealth." Lu Ping smiled and said, "Uncle Master, you've just broken through. Don't you need to consolidate your cultivation?" Perfected Liang Xianfeng reached out and put the remaining 4 high-grade spirit stones into his storage artifact. He said, "Anyway, I've already broken through. Without your secret technique to explode spirit stones, I'll just have to go into seclusion for a few more days. I'd better save these spirit stones." Half a month later, perfected Liang Xianfeng came out of the cultivation room and saw Lu Ping waiting for him at the door with a smile. Seeing that perfected Liang Xianfeng had come out of seclusion, Lu Ping smiled and said, "Congratulations on your great progress in cultivation, Uncle Master. You're one step closer to becoming our sect's Dharma form Laozu." Perfected Liang Xianfeng did not suspect anything. He was excited and said, "It's all thanks to the Zhongding pill you refined. Your Uncle Master has long reached the point of breaking through to the 9th stage of the core forging realm. Unfortunately, I failed several times before. This time, with the help of the Zhongding pill, I finally broke through this shackle." Lu Ping sighed and said, "That's right. I've suffered a great loss to refine the Zhongding pill this time. I've lost nearly 100 types of 1,000-year-old spirit herbs and 7 3,000-year-old spirit herbs, but I only managed to refine 1 Zhongding pill. I even lost 20 high-grade spirit stones because of it." Lu Ping deliberately mentioned the high-grade spirit stones at the end, doubling the number of losses. Perfected Liang Xianfeng had a strange look on his face. How could he not know what Lu Ping was planning? He said, "Kid, don't even think about taking the spirit stones. As you can see, your Uncle Master is now penniless. I only have those 4 high-grade spirit stones left. Lu Ping chuckled and stepped forward. Martial Uncle, I'm sure you still have some spirit stones left, right? I don't believe that a famous late core forging realm expert like you only has less than 1,000,000 spirit stones. I won't take it for free. How about I trade with you? I only want high-grade spirit stones. Chapter 308. After hearing Lu Ping's words, perfected Liang Xianfeng said angrily, Kid, what do you know? At my level, things like hundreds of thousands of spirit stones are easy to get. What's really useful are the things that can't be bought with spirit stones. Are you saying that the value of the spirit stones on you is higher than the value of other cultivation items? Lu Ping smiled embarrassedly and thought to himself, of course not. I have 5 heaven and earth spiritual items on me. None of them can be measured by spirit stones. As for the other top-grade spiritual materials, there's no need to mention them. Perfected Liang Xianfeng flipped his hand and took out 10 superior-grade spirit stones. That's all I have. I don't have any more. Lu Ping chuckled and took the spirit stones from Perfected Liang Xuanfeng's hand. This time, Lu Ping had really suffered a heavy loss in order to refine the Bell Cauldron pill. Lu Ping was asking Perfected Liang Xianfeng some questions about cultivation when he heard someone say from outside, I'm a disciple of Skyrend. May I see fellow cultivator in the inn? Perfected Liang Xianfeng smiled and said, It seems that my cultivation breakthrough this time has caused quite a commotion. It seems that Skyrend didn't have any bad intentions by only coming to check up now. Lu Ping rolled his eyes when he heard that and thought to himself, although your cultivation breakthrough didn't cause a celestial phenomenon, how many people would notice that the spirit chi within a few miles was swept away? What's more, although the pressure of your divine sense disappeared in a flash, it was a real aura of a late-stage core forging cultivator. Which cultivator would dare to disturb you in advance? By the time the two left, Chu Ting and Zhu Xianming had already sent away Skyrend's disciple. Seeing that Liang Xianfeng had come out of seclusion, they handed him a bright red invitation. Oh, it's a trade fair organized by the Sky Fisher Sword Sect on Silver Sword Island. Reverend Liang Xianfeng glanced at the contents and said, This Silver Sword Island sure knows how to pick a good time. When the Profound Heavens abode opened, many cultivators had benefited from it. Even now, there are still cultivators diving deep into the ocean to explore the ruins of the Profound Heavens abode. Many cultivators have also settled down on Silver Sword Island. This is the perfect time for the Sky Fisher Sword Sect to gather some core forging cultivators and organize a barter trade fair. 3 days later, Lu Ping, Zhu Xianming, and Chu Ting followed Perfected Liang Xianfeng to a tea house operated by Skyrend. The 4 of them walked up to the tea house, and a cultivator from the Sky Fisher Sword Sect welcomed them with a smile. It's our honor to have you here, fellow Taoist. May I ask your name? This cultivator from Skyrend was a mid-stage core forging cultivator. Although he looked amiable on the surface, Lu Ping could still feel a vigorous and sharp power from him. Perfected Liang Xianfeng handed over the invitation and greeted them with cupped fists. I don't dare. My surname is Liang. Then he turned around and pointed at Zhu Xianming and the others. These are our juniors. They want to see the world. Please forgive us for taking the liberty to come. The Sky-Breaking Sword Sect cultivator saw that Lu Ping and the others were all in the core forging realm, and enlightened Master Liang Xianfeng was a 9th-layer core forging realm expert. He didn't dare to slight them, so he quickly said, It's fine. I'm very envious of the 3 of you for reaching such a high cultivation level at such a young age. Please come in and have some tea. There are still a few more who have yet to arrive. Under the guidance of a boy, the 4 of them came to a rather large quiet room. A waiter served them high-grade spirit tea, and the 4 of them sat down. There were already several perfected masters in the quiet room. When they saw the 4 of them, especially perfected Liang Xuanfeng's 9th stage core forging cultivation, the cultivators in the quiet room nodded to show their goodwill. Perfected Liang Xianfeng also smiled. After another half an hour, several more perfected masters arrived. Only then did Lu Ping notice that all the cultivators attending the trade fair were at least mid-stage core forging. No wonder perfected Liang Xianfeng specially explained it to perfected Master Skyrend at the entrance. At this time, there were nearly 30 cultivators in the quiet room. Among them, nearly 10 were late-stage perfected masters, and the rest were at 5th stage or 6th stage core forging. There were almost no 4th stage core forging cultivators like Zhu Ximing. As for 1st stage core forging cultivators like Lu Ping and Chu Ting, they were the only ones present. The two of them became the center of attention in the quiet room. If it wasn't for perfected Master Liang Xianfeng, who was a 9th stage core forging expert, holding the fort, the two of them might have met with misfortune. Just as Lu Ping was deep in thought, the cultivator who greeted them at the entrance of the stairs came in. He made a square salute and said, Almost everyone is here. Thank you all for coming to participate in this barter trade fair. My surname is Jean, and I'm the shopkeeper of this tea house. 2 more senior brothers from my sect came to participate in this trade fair. They are senior brother Ming Jian and senior brother Huang Tingjian. As soon as perfected Master Jean finished speaking, 2 cultivators with huge swords on their backs walked in from behind the quiet room. There were already people behind the quiet room? This was clearly out of the perfected master's expectations. Except for perfected Master Liang Xianfeng, who seemed to have sensed it earlier, the way everyone looked at the two suddenly changed. When Lu Ping probed with his divine sense, he immediately felt that the two of them were filled with sharp qi, as if they wanted to cut Lu Ping's divine sense apart. Lu Ping could only see that the two of them were late-stage core forging cultivators. He hurriedly retracted his divine sense, only to discover that he wasn't the only one. Many other cultivators had also noticed this, and their faces turned ugly. Perfected Master Jean acted as if he didn't see the expressions on everyone's faces. He smiled and continued, "The 2 senior brothers have gained a lot from the Heavy Xian Cave. I hope we can get what we need from this trade." As soon as Taoist Jean finished speaking, the eyes of all the cultivators lit up. Everyone knew that the Crystal Palace and Sky Fisher Sword faction had obtained the greatest benefits from the appearance of the profound Immortal's abode. Sky Fisher Sword faction had even cleaned out Patriarch Profound's storage room, obtaining an uncountable number of spiritual materials, magic artifacts, and magic treasures. The legacy jade slips inside the Profound Immortal's Grand Hall had also been divided with Sky Fisher Sword faction. Clearly, these 2 cultivators who had participated in the trade fair had gained a lot. At this moment, perfected Master Liang Xuanfeng's words suddenly sounded in the ears of Lu Ping and the other 2. He said, "Don't reveal your gains from the Heavy Xian Cave unless it's necessary." Before Lu Ping could think about the meaning of perfected Master Liang Xuanfeng's words, he saw Skyren's perfected Master Ming Jian smile and say, "Since this trade fair is led by me, Skyrend, I'll be the first one to make a move." As soon as perfected Master Ming Jian finished speaking, a black iron block the size of a head appeared in his hand. He said, "This is a mutated second-class top-tier spiritual material, green hell iron from the Heavy Xian Cave. It's a top-tier spiritual material for making metal attribute magic treasures. I'm willing to exchange it with everyone here for a mutated, would attribute spiritual material of the same grade." Although this piece of green hell iron was only the size of a head, it actually weighed more than 500 kilograms. It was so light in perfected Master Ming Jian's hand. Perhaps a second-class mutated top-tier spiritual material was just a good item in the eyes of the perfected masters. However, this was perfected Master Ming Jian's first time making a move. He had set a tone. If the items that the perfected masters used to trade were not as good as this piece of green hell iron, they should not bring it out to embarrass themselves. Lu Ping did have a mutated would attribute spiritual material, but Lu Ping's green hell iron was useless. Moreover, he was not proficient in smithing. At this moment, a long-bearded perfected master sitting opposite Lu Ping said with a smile, "Taoist brother Ming Jian, you're really generous. You've set the standard so high. The old man should exchange for something first. Otherwise, when everyone's treasures are revealed one by one, the old man will only be able to look at them enviously. He won't have enough bargaining chips." Perfected Master Ming Jian glanced at the old man and said with a smile, "So it's Taoist brother Mu. You must be joking." The Mu family is a famous cultivator family in the East Sea. How could they be lacking in treasures? However, I wonder what kind of wood attribute spiritual material Taoist brother is holding? Perfected Master Mu stretched out his hand and took out a lump of wood. Perfected Master Ming Jian's eyes lit up as if two sharp swords were shooting at the lump of wood in Perfected Master Mu's hand. He said, "It's actually the heart of a 1,000-year-old locust tree. It's indeed a second-class spiritual material, but it's a lot smaller. I'm at a disadvantage if I exchange it with this piece of green hell iron." Perfected Master Mu waved his hand and said, "Taoist brother Ming Jian, look carefully. This isn't an ordinary 1,000-year-old locust tree heart. The growth rings of this locust tree heart have already reached 1,500 years old. It's a top-grade tree heart. It's enough to exchange for this piece of green hell iron." Oh? After hearing Perfected Master Mu's explanation, Perfected Master Ming Jian stretched out his hand and beckoned. The lump of wood flew towards Perfected Master Ming Jian. Perfected Master Mu didn't stop it. He just watched Perfected Master Ming Jian carefully examine the lump of wood in his hand with a smile. After a moment, Perfected Master Ming Jian nodded and said with satisfaction, "It's indeed a 1,500-year-old locust tree heart. I'll exchange it. Please keep this piece of green hell iron." Next, several Perfected Masters took out the treasures they didn't need and exchanged them for the things they needed, just like in a treasure competition. All kinds of spiritual materials, magic treasures, strange magic tools, medicinal pills, cultivation methods, and jade slips emerged one after another. It was an eye-opener for Lu Ping. Originally, Lu Ping thought that the many treasures he had on him were already considered extremely wealthy among the core forging realm cultivators. But now, compared to these middle and late-stage core forging realm cultivators, he was undoubtedly a frog in the well. Just as Lu Ping was appreciating all kinds of rare treasures and listening to the cultivator's evaluation of these treasures, a fourth-layer core forging realm female cultivator with the same cultivation level as Zhu Xinming stood up and said, "This little girl's wealth isn't comparable to yours. I only have this bowl of spirit water. I want to exchange it for 23,000-year-old spiritual herbs." As soon as the female cultivator's voice fell, everyone exclaimed in surprise. Even Perfected Master Liang Xianfeng and Perfected Master Huang Tingjian, who were sitting at the side with their eyes closed, suddenly opened their eyes and glanced at the water bowl in the female cultivator's hand. Jade nectar clear water. I can't believe it's this thing. Lu Ping looked at the bowl of spirit water in the female cultivator's hand. His expression didn't change, but his mind was already spinning. 23,000-year-old spiritual herbs is not a small amount. Can Fairy Sun lower the price? One of the impatient cultivators asked. Jade nectar clear water was a natural treasure of the water attribute. Together with fine nectar clear water, it was known as one of the two great treasures of the world. It was extremely important for cultivators to quickly recover their true essence and injuries. More importantly, these two treasures were essential for cultivators to cultivate various small water attribute magical abilities, including the small magical ability that Lu Ping had cultivated to the first stage, the three Pure One's true pupils. Chapter 309. When the female practitioner heard the discussion, she said impatiently, "I have already said that I am willing to exchange this item for 23,000-year-old spirit herbs." A cultivator beside the female cultivator said, "Fairy Sun, you must be joking. 23-year-old spirit herbs are enough to make half a furnace of pure Dharma elixirs. From what I know, most of the elixirs that Dharma ancestors use now are made with 3,000-year-old spirit herbs as a primer. Then, they use large amounts of 1,000-year-old spirit herbs to make elixirs that are half a step into the Dharma stage. Fairy Sun wants 23,000-year-old spirit herbs, but this small bowl of spirit water is not enough." Fairy Sun's expression did not change. She said, "Oh, then how many spirit herbs does Spiritual Master Gao think you can get?" Spiritual Master Gao was happy to hear this. He knew that there was room for negotiation, so he said, "I have 4 3,000-year-old spirit herbs." Fairy Sun's expression changed. Spiritual Master Gao saw this and quickly said, "Of course, I have 10,000-year-old spirit herbs to supplement." Lu Ping couldn't help but curl his lips. How could a 3,000-year spirit herb be compared to a 1,000-year spirit herb? A single 3,000-year spirit herb was worth more than 10 1,000-year spirit herbs. Yet, this enlightened Master Gao's offer was only equivalent to 5 3,000-year spirit herbs, which was more than half of enlightened Master Sun's offer. Sure enough, before Fairy Sun could react, another spiritual master laughed and said, "Spiritual Master Gao's joke is too much. 10,000-year-old spirit herbs for one 3,000-year-old spirit herb depends on whether the other party is happy or not. Although I am not talented, I am willing to use 8 3,000-year-old spirit herbs and 100,000-year-old spirit herbs to exchange for Fairy Sun's spirit water." Spiritual Master Gao's expression became angry, but he couldn't blame anyone else. He could only blame himself for lowering the price too much and being looked down upon by others. At this time, Skyrin's Jean Junren also interrupted, "Haha, I didn't think that Fairy Sun's spirit water would be so popular. I am also very envious. I am also willing to use 10 3,000-year-old spirit herbs to exchange for it, and 150,000-year-old spirit herbs." When Taoist Jean spoke, everyone's expression changed again. They didn't know if this was Skyrin's intention. Just as the Taoist Jean was about to speak, someone else said, "I offer 12 3,000-year-old herbs." The enlightened master was startled. He turned around and saw a young cultivator at the first layer of the core forging realm. The enlightened master was displeased. He thought to himself that an early core forging minor repairs cultivator had come to take a look. Naturally, others wouldn't say anything, but if they interfered in the transaction, then it wouldn't be right. Just as he was about to reprimand the young cultivator, he saw perfected Liang Xianfeng resting with his eyes closed. Only then did he remember that perfected Liang Xianfeng was a 9th-layer core forging expert. He immediately swallowed his anger. This perfected person did not speak, but that did not mean that others would be polite to Lu Ping. Taoist Master Gao, who had just been humiliated, saw that it was only an early-stage core forging cultivator who was bidding. He immediately sneered and said, "Whose child is this? Is there any place for you to speak? 12 3,000-year-old herbs? How arrogant!" Perfected Liang Xianfeng, who was resting with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Taoist Master Gao. Just as perfected Liang Xianfeng opened his eyes, perfected Skyrind, perfected Huang Tingjian, also opened his eyes. He looked at perfected Liang Xianfeng, but then he looked at Lu Ping. "Are you talking about me?" Perfected Liang Xianfeng looked at Taoist Master Gao and asked softly. His expression was indifferent, but his voice was clearly transmitted to everyone's ears, causing the entire pavilion to become incomparably silent. Taoist Master Gao's heart skipped a beat when he saw perfected Liang Xuanfeng's gaze on him. Immediately after, perfected Liang Xuanfeng's voice sounded like a gentle breeze. Taoist Master Gao's mind was in chaos. Then, a divine sense slashed at him like a sharp blade, completely cutting off the breeze. Perfected Liang Xianfeng raised his head and looked at perfected Huang Tingjian. He didn't say anything else. Taoist Master Gao's expression changed greatly. He looked at perfected Liang Xianfeng with fear, then looked at Skyrind and the other 3 perfected masters, and said, "Taoist Jean, are early-stage core forging minor repairs allowed to participate in this trade fair? How could I not know?" Fairy Sun secretly scolded Taoist Master Gao for being a busybody. Even Skyrind's cultivators didn't stop Lu Ping from bidding. It was clear that even Skyrind had to give face to the 9th-stage core forging cultivator next to Lu Ping. If Taoist Master Gao messed things up, wouldn't she lose her spirit water? Fairy Sun wasn't the only one who scolded Taoist Master Gao for being a busybody. Taoist Jean also frowned. However, he still had to uphold Skyrind's rules. Thus, he said, "This trade fair has indeed only invited cultivators above the middle stage of core forging." But Taoist Jean dragged out the word "but," as if he was looking for a reason to deal with Taoist Master Gao without offending perfected Master Liang. Although Skyrind had a large business, it hadn't reached the point where it would make enemies everywhere. "But this Lu Xiaoyu isn't an ordinary early-stage core forging cultivator," said perfected Master Huang Tingjian. The one who spoke was enlightened Master Huang Tingjian, who was seated at the head of the table. He originally didn't plan on attending the trade fair, But because enlightened Master Jean had reported to him that there was a ninth-layer core forging expert among the invited cultivators, he decided to step forward. As the host, the cultivators of the Sky Fisher Sword sect couldn't show weakness in front of outsiders. Perfected Master Huang Tingjian opened his mouth, but Taoist Jean let out a long sigh of relief. Taoist Sun then said, "Oh, Taoist Huang knows this young friend? May I ask what's different about him?" Perfected Master Huang Tingjian asked solemnly, "May I ask if this young friend is the fourth-place alchemist Lugio of the Northern Alliance Elixir Gathering?" As soon as Perfected Master Huang Tingjian said this, all the cultivators present were stunned. Most of the cultivators present were core members of their respective forces. The Northern Alliance Elixir Gathering was a major event during the Northern Alliance's celebration. It was related to the growth of young alchemists, so these forces naturally had to pay attention to it. At the same time, these perfected masters had also heard of the outstanding alchemists in the Elixir Gathering. After all, these alchemists could become great alchemists in the future, or even great alchemists. Lu Ping did not dare to slight this perfected master Huang Tingjian. The feeling this perfected master gave Lu Ping was not inferior to perfected master Liang Xianfeng, so he said respectfully, "This junior is Lu Jiao." Seeing that Lu Ping was polite, perfected master Huang Tingjian nodded and said, "Lu Xiaoyu is now an alchemist master, right?" After all, after martial nephew Wei formed his gold core, he successfully refined a core forging level pill. Even martial nephew Wei admires Lu Xiaoyu's alchemy skills. This martial nephew Wei was Skyrin's alchemist who had followed perfected master Ji Yayue to the Elixir Gathering. Lu Ping replied, "Brother Wei, you flatter me. This junior was lucky enough to refine a gold core pill." Zhu Xinming and Chu Ting secretly curled their lips. Lu Ping could even refine a Zhongding pill, a top-grade pill that was mixed with 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs. In front of a Zhongding pill, a gold core pill could only be thrown away. However, when the other cultivators in the quiet room heard Lu Ping's words, their expressions changed again. This was a newly promoted alchemist master, and he was so young. He had a bright future ahead of him. Fairy Sun immediately said, "Since Lu Xiaoyu is already an alchemist master, he can naturally participate in this trade fair." Everyone echoed, saying, "If even alchemist masters can't participate, then there's no reason for it." Only perfected Master Gao's face was red. He was so angry that his whole body was trembling, but he couldn't do anything. He wanted to leave, but he was afraid of Skyrin's face. His eyes were filled with resentment as he looked at Lu Ping, then at Fairy Sunday. At this time, perfected Master Jean took out a jade box from his spatial magic tool and said, "Although Master Lu has offered a high price, this jade elixir clear water is indeed very useful to me. I might have to pay a bit of my own capital. Here are 12 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs. I will add on the 150,000-year-old spiritual herbs from before. I offer 14 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs." The one who spoke was the cultivator who had previously ridiculed perfected Master Gao. Lu Ping was also weighing the pros and cons. Lu Ping really didn't want to miss out on this jade elixir clear water. Although he had a lot of 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs in his possession, he couldn't let others earn them so easily. Besides, this bowl of water was different from the spirit clear water from before. It was enough for 2 people to cleanse their eyes, but this bowl of water was only enough for 1 person. Lu Ping. 15. I offer 15 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs. Lu Ping pretended to have a pained expression. Even the scheming Chu Ting and Zhu Xinming couldn't help but praise Lu Ping for being so cunning. They knew that perfected Master Liang Xianfeng had given him more than 33,000-year-old spiritual herbs. Perfected Master Jean laughed and said, "If that's the case, I'll give up on this bowl of water. If I offer any more spiritual herbs, it won't be worth it." The other perfected master also said, "I'll give up on this bowl of water as well. I don't have as many spiritual herbs as Master Lu." Lu Ping knew that he was a grandmaster alchemist, so the 2 of them had to give him some face. After all, this was a spiritual item that could only be found by chance. If they were to get serious, even 23,000-year-old spiritual herbs would have to be carefully calculated. Lu Ping immediately said, "Thank you, seniors. I won't stand on ceremony. He then turned around and said, I wonder if Fairy Sun can exchange 15 spiritual herbs for this bowl of water? Sure enough, Fairy Sun also smiled and said, 15 spiritual herbs might not be enough, but it's barely enough. I'll exchange this bowl of water with you, little brother. Lu Ping thanked her and handed a jade marrow box to Fairy Sunday. Fairy Sun opened it and nodded in satisfaction. Lu Ping carefully placed the bowl of water into his storage ring and let out a long sigh of relief. The trading fair continued, but this time, Lu Ping was also qualified to participate. However, none of the following transactions caught Lu Ping's attention. Zhu Xinming, on the other hand, used a top-grade instrument that looked like a musical instrument to exchange for a jade scroll that recorded a musical killing method from the same cultivator. In the blink of an eye, the first 20 or so cultivators had shown their items. It was perfected Master Liang Xuanfeng's turn to show his treasure. The cultivators in the quiet room naturally looked at one of the two ninth-layer core forging experts in the room. Lu Ping and the other two were also curious about what treasure perfected Master Liang Xianfeng would take out. Even the other ninth-layer core forging expert, Skyrin's perfected Master Huang Tingjian, looked at perfected Master Liang Xianfeng with interest. Chapter 310. Perfected Liang Xianfeng smiled and reached out with his left hand, but it was empty. The perfected masters present were not fooled by this. When perfected Master Liang Xianfeng opened his left hand, Lu Ping noticed that the airflow in the room had suddenly changed. Before Lu Ping could use his divine sense to investigate what was in perfected Master Liang Xuanfeng's hand, perfected Huang Tingjian exclaimed, Flying Catkin, Brother Liang is really generous to actually take out such a mid-grade profound rank origin treasure. It was a universe treasure. The perfected masters in the room immediately panicked. They all released their divine senses toward perfected Master Liang Xuanfeng's hand. Lu Ping was no exception. In Lu Ping's divine sense, he could sense a seemingly insubstantial flying catkin floating in perfected Master Liang's hand, but it could not escape his grasp. However, the airflow in the room revolved around this invisible flying catkin, forming a faint whirlwind. Fluttering cotton was originally some dust, fluttering cotton, and other miscellaneous things in the world that were almost weightless. However, these things had drifted in the world with the wind for thousands of years and had never drifted to the ground or attached to any object. Over time, these miscellaneous things had condensed a trace of the spirit of the world and absorbed the essence of the wind to form fluttering cotton. Given perfected Master Liang Xuanfeng's status, it was not strange for him to take out a universe treasure. Every sect encouraged their cultivators to hand over the universe treasures they had no use for to the sect, and the sect would naturally reward them handsomely. At the same time, they also warned the cultivators not to exchange the universe treasure for anything else. After all, every universe treasure represented the appearance of at least a mid-stage core forging master. If the universe treasure ended up in the hands of an enemy, it would be akin to aiding the enemy. Every universe treasure was a treasure that a sect spared no effort in collecting. It was related to the prosperity and inheritance of a sect. As expected, after perfected Master Liang Xianfeng took out the universe treasure, all the cultivators in the room were eager to try it out. What does perfected Master Liang intend to exchange this treasure for? Perfected Master Jin, the host of the trade meeting, was the first to ask this question. Taoist Liang didn't seem to notice the anxious mood of the master in the quiet room. He slowly said, I wish to exchange for 2 wind attribute treasured restrictions. It would be best if one is offensive and one is defensive. If I really don't have any, then I can exchange my defensive treasured restriction for a flying escape treasure. Of course, it would be best if I don't have these 2 treasured restrictions. As soon as Taoist Liang's words left his mouth, more than half of the cultivators in the quiet room shook their heads regretfully. Many cultivators seemed to be weighing and thinking about something. Perfected Master Jin then said, Haha, perfected Master Liang Xianfeng, Master Liang Xianfeng, perfected Master Xianfeng, perfected Master Liang Xianfeng, but as the host, I have to remind you that you are at a bit of a loss. Reverend Liang nodded in satisfaction and said, The sky-breaking sword sect has always been fair and just. Sure enough, they live up to their reputation. These two barriers are only the minimum requirement. If you want this spiritual item, you can exchange it with upper-grade spirit stones. The highest bidder wins it. As soon as perfected Master Liang Xianfeng finished his sentence, a late-stage core forging master said, I will offer an offensive restriction and a flight restriction, as well as 10 high-grade spirit stones. What a joke. This is a universe treasure. Brother Yu, aren't you afraid of being laughed at by everyone here? After all, Yuan Ming sect was a reputable sect in the East Ocean. I have an offensive restriction and a defensive restriction, as well as 20 high-grade spirit stones. The one who spoke was also a late-stage core forging master. This perfected master was sitting opposite perfected Master Yu. It was obvious that the two sects didn't have a good relationship. Naturally, they wouldn't give in to each other when it came to treasures that could produce experts. Yuan Ming's sect's immortal Yu, who was ridiculed, sneered, Inji Chong, your Qingyuan sect is not so carefree. I heard that your brother's cultivation has reached the 3rd stage of core forging realm because of elixirs, and he also cultivates a wind attribute cultivation method. Are you so sure that he can fuse with the flying cotton? It's better not to waste God's gift recklessly. Just get a low-rank profound level spirit object and let him live for 100 or 80 years. Do you still expect your playboy brother to fight for Qingyuan sect, Inji Chong? Perfected Master Inji Chong of Qingyuan sect was livid. It was obvious that perfected Master Yu had hit the nail on the head. However, he still said coldly, this is our sect's business. If you're weak, just shut up. Spiritual Master Yu laughed mockingly twice, but did not say anything else. At this time, another perfected master made a bid. He also offered an offensive restriction and a defensive restriction, as well as 30 high-grade spirit stones. Another perfected master took out 2 defensive restrictions, but he obviously realized that 2 defensive restrictions were not as good as 1 offensive and 1 defensive restriction. He offered 50 high-grade spirit stones. Lu Ping noticed that after perfected Master Liang took out the flying feather, the cultivators who bid were all in the late core forging realm. None of the mid-stage core forging realm cultivators made a bid. Even if there were 1 or 2 who were eager to try, they didn't know why. No one knew if the wind attribute restriction they offered was suitable for Daoist Liang. With Daoist Liang's cultivation at the 9th layer of core forging, he naturally had more than 1 magic treasure. Moreover, his magic treasure also had more than 1 restriction. Thus, even the highest bidder might not be able to catch Daoist Liang's eye. If Daoist Liang already had a restriction, then he could only settle for the next best thing and see if the other bidders' restrictions were suitable. Just as perfected Master Liang was waiting for other bidders, perfected Master Huang Tingjian said, Brother Liang, I, Skyrend, offer an offensive restriction, a defensive restriction, and a flying one. I guarantee that Brother Liang has never used them before. What do you think? As soon as perfected Master Huang Tingjian said that, the cultivators in the quiet room who participated in the bidding changed their expressions. However, Skyrend was powerful and clearly wanted this spiritual item. The other perfected masters naturally didn't want to provoke Skyrend at this time. Perfected Master Liang also knew that since perfected Master Huang Tingjian made a bid, no one else in the quiet room would dare to bid again. Moreover, with Skyrend's status in the Eastern Sea, it was not a lie to say that he could find 3 restrictions that perfected Master Liang hadn't used before. Thus, perfected Master Liang smiled and said, Since Brother Huang has spoken, I naturally believe you. After saying that, he pointed to Lu Ping beside him and said, I originally wanted to ask for some superior grade spirit stones for my juniors, but with Brother Huang's bid, I don't have any gifts for my juniors. At this time, perfected Master Jin had already walked to the back of the pavilion under perfected Master Huang Tingjian's signal. When he came out a moment later, there were 7 or 8 jade slips in the jade box in his hand. Clearly, each jade slip had a restriction recorded on it. Perfected Master Huang Tingjian was afraid that these restrictions were not enough, so he flipped his hand and took out another 3 or 4 jade slips and placed them in the jade box. After looking through the jade slips one by one, perfected Master Liang pondered for a moment before choosing 3 jade slips from the jade box. He said, Skyrend lives up to its name as one of the 5 major sects of the Eastern Sea. This foundation is indeed admirable. Perfected Master Huang Tingjian reached out to take the flying cotton from Perfected Master Liang and stored it in a gourd. Only then did he say, "Brother Liang is too kind." It was Perfected Master Huang Tingjian's turn to show off his treasure. Just as everyone was waiting to see what kind of treasure Perfected Master Huang would bring out as the host, they heard Perfected Master Huang Tingjian say with a smile, "Since Lu Xiaoyu is an alchemy grandmaster and has just exchanged a bowl of jade nectar from Fairy Sun, since you're participating in this trade fair, you might have to take out a treasure or two to broaden our horizons." All the cultivators in the quiet room looked at Lu Ping. At this time, because of Lu Ping's 15 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs and his identity as an alchemy grandmaster, no one dared to look down on this first-layer core forging minor repairs. Lu Ping knew that Uncle Master Liang Xuanfeng's words had bought him such an opportunity. However, Lu Ping was also secretly thinking about what kind of treasure he should show that would not embarrass him or attract attention. After all, Lu Ping was not Perfected Master Liang and did not have such a high cultivation to intimidate others. Lu Ping carefully took stock of his possessions and found that he really had a lot of treasures that were qualified to be traded. There was no need to talk about the 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs. If 10 more appeared, he was afraid that Fa Xiang Laozu would come knocking on his door. Lu Ping did not want to be in the limelight again. Naturally, he would not be able to use heaven and earth spirit treasures, not to mention that all 5 of Lu Ping's heaven and earth spirit treasures had their own uses. Lu Ping did have a lot of mutated spiritual materials, such as the branch of the peach tree demon, the 1,000-year-old peach tree struck by lightning, the pool of mutated spiritual water catalyzed by the profound heavy water, and so on. However, Perfected Master Mingjian had already asked for a second-class wood attribute spiritual material. At this time, it was obviously not appropriate for Lu Ping to take it out. There was no need to mention the mutated spiritual water, which was used by Zhong Xian Laozu to quench a celestial tool. Taking it out was tantamount to telling everyone that the profound heavy water of the 4 treasures of Zhong Xian was on him. Moreover, Perfected Master Liang had repeatedly instructed Lu Ping not to take out the harvest from Zhong Xian's cave for trading. Magic weapons were fine, but Lu Ping did not have many of them. Moreover, these magic weapons were currently of use to Lu Ping. Lu Ping finally set his eyes on the sunflower water essence and the myriad poison serum. The sunflower water essence had already been used by Lu Ping a lot, and now the remaining small pool was used to support the growth of the 3 white jade lotus seeds. Then there was only the myriad poison serum left. It just so happened that Lu Ping's protective aura chi still needed the last kind of water attribute rare item to upgrade it to the water curtain true aura shield. So, he used a portion of the myriad poison serum to exchange for the same water attribute rare item that could be used to condense the protective aura shield. Under the expectant, sarcastic, or stupefied gazes of the crowd, Lu Ping took out a 1-foot-tall blue stone jar from his storage ring. Inside it was a jar full of fragrant golden liquid. What is this thing? How come I haven't seen it before? What kind of good thing can be stored in a stone jar? In the end, he is a cultivator who has just advanced to the core forging realm. Moreover, he is so young. Even if he is an alchemy grandmaster, his foundation is shallow. Without the accumulation of time, it is not enough. Lu Ping turned a deaf ear to the whispers of the surrounding cultivators. Instead, he carefully placed the blue stone jar in front of him, for fear of knocking it over. After all, it's extremely difficult for a cultivator to control such a strong poison when cultivating a divine ability. If not, it'll backfire on the cultivator. Of course, if the cultivation is successful, the power of the divine ability cannot be underestimated. At least in the cultivation world, there's hardly any poison that can harm a cultivator who uses the myriad poison liquid to cultivate a divine ability. Lu Ping didn't refute. Using the myriad poison liquid to cultivate a divine ability was indeed very risky. If it wasn't for Samling's help and his divine sense that far surpassed others, it wouldn't have been easy for Lu Ping to fuse the myriad poison meteorite aura into his protective vigor chi. At this time, Fairy Sun smiled and said, "Lu Daoyu, why did you use an ordinary bluestone jar to store the myriad poison liquid? Lu Ping answered with a smile. This is a miracle of fate. The myriad poison liquid's poison is so strong that it can corrode almost any object, except for this ordinary bluestone. Fortunately, this is the case. Otherwise, I would have missed this precious treasure. When everyone heard this, they all clicked their tongues in wonder. Although it was extremely difficult to use the myriad poison liquid to cultivate a divine ability, its effects were still coveted by many cultivators. Just being immune to all poisons was already extremely beneficial. Many cultivators wanted to exchange for it. Lu Ping's jar of myriad poison liquid might seem small, but when a cultivator used it to cultivate a protective vigor chi, it was fused with the myriad poison meteorite aura released by the myriad poison liquid. The amount of myriad poison meteorite aura condensed into this jar of myriad poison meteorite aura was enough for 3 or 4 ordinary cultivators to condense their vigor chi. Lu Ping also felt helpless. When he condensed his vigor chi, he used so much myriad poison liquid. If he wanted to condense a third type of vigor chi, he would need to use at least the same amount of myriad poison liquid. A Taoist master said with a difficult expression, I also have a water attribute heaven and earth treasure used to condense vigor chi, but the amount is only 1/3 of Lu Daoyu's. If Lu Daoyu is willing, I can replace it with something else, or only exchange for 1/3 of the myriad poison liquid. What do you think? When Lu Ping heard that the other party had a water attribute heaven and earth treasure, he was delighted. But when he heard that it was only 1/3, he could only regretfully shake his head and say, I'm really sorry, I will only exchange for the same amount of heaven and earth treasure. Everyone present was a sensitive person, so they could naturally guess that Lu Ping wanted to exchange for a heaven and earth treasure to condense his own divine ability. But to condense so much at once, 3 to 4 times more than an ordinary cultivator, was a bit surprising. Such a small protective divine ability was comparable to a protective magic treasure. At this time, Taoist Master Brightsword and Taoist Master Huang Tingjian were whispering to each other. No one knew what they were discussing, but from the way the two looked at the bluestone jar in front of Lu Ping from time to time, it could be guessed that Skyrind also had his eyes on this jar of myriad poison liquid. Perhaps the conversation between Taoist Master Brightsword and Taoist Master Huang Tingjian had aroused the vigilance of the other cultivators who coveted the myriad poison liquid. Many cultivators who were interested in the myriad poison liquid revealed their own bargaining chips. Lu Daoyu, I have a portion of glacial true water. Although the amount is only 1/4 of the myriad poison liquid, I still have a portion of 100-flower jade dew. If it is not enough, I will use high-grade spirit stones to make up for it. How about it? Lu Daoyu, such a large amount of water-attributed heaven and earth treasure is truly rare. What do you think of this underground millennium water milk? Not bad. It is indeed only half of the amount. Fellow Taoist is an alchemist. How about I use a millennium spirit grass to make up for it? I have a sufficient amount of heaven and earth treasure, but this is a dual attribute heaven and earth treasure. I wonder if fellow Taoist is interested in it? For a moment, Lu Ping's myriad poison liquid became a highly sought-after item. In the quiet room, 5 or 6 people took out water-attributed heaven and earth treasures, intending to trade with Lu Ping. This greatly surprised Lu Ping. However, after thinking about it, he felt relieved. Although heaven and earth treasures were rare, which one of the Taoist masters here hadn't lived for hundreds of years? Which one of them didn't have some trump cards? Not to mention, this was only a water-attributed heaven and earth treasure. If it was a heaven and earth treasure of any other attribute, these cultivators would have many of them. Previously, when Taoist Master Gao said that Lu Ping's foundation was shallow, he wasn't wrong. However, these cultivators who were willing to trade either didn't have enough heaven and earth treasures, or their attributes weren't suitable. This greatly disappointed Lu Ping. Right at this moment, Reverend Mingjian asked, Young friend Lu, our Sky Fisher Sword sect does have a special item of the water attribute, and its quantity is sufficient. However, if you want to condense your energy, you'll have to follow me to our Sky Fisher Sword sect's territory, Jade Sword Island. Hearing Taoist Master Mingjian's words, Lu Ping pondered for a moment and said, May I know what Senior is talking about? Taoist Master Mingjian and Taoist Master Huang Tingjian looked at each other, then turned and smiled. It's my sect's sword-cleansing pool. Everyone cried out in surprise. Lu Ping also looked at Taoist Master Ming Jian in surprise. Skyrin's sword-cleansing pool could be considered a heaven and earth treasure. Legend had it that when Skyrin was first established, Sky-ripping Laozu established the sword-cleansing pool. Skyrin had a long history, even longer than Zhenling. The sword-cleansing pool had always existed and became one of Skyrin's specialties. Who would have thought that the water in the sword-cleansing pool was a heaven and earth treasure? Lu Ping glanced at Liang Xianfeng beside him. He didn't know much about the sword-cleansing pool, but Taoist Master Liang Xianfeng was experienced and knowledgeable. At this moment, Lu Ping wanted to hear his opinion. Unexpectedly, Taoist Master Liang Xianfeng seemed to be thinking about something and didn't pay attention to Lu Ping. Lu Ping didn't want to miss this opportunity either. He was about to agree when he heard Fairy Sun say, "Lu Daoyu, I also have a heaven and earth treasure here. Do you like it?" Everyone in the quiet room also looked at Fairy Sun in surprise. They didn't expect that after Skyrind proposed to trade, Fairy Sun also wanted to interfere. It wasn't that Skyrind was as overbearing as the Crystal Palace. It was just that Skyrind was a big sect in Donghai after all, and this trade fair was proposed by Skyrind. The cultivators were afraid of Skyrind's power, and they wanted to do the host a favor. Usually, after the three Taoists of Skyrind made a move, the rest of the people would unanimously stop bidding. Fairy Sun's move was not only unexpected, but even Taoist Master Ming Jian was a little surprised. Fairy Sun also realized that what she did was likely to offend Skyrind, but she just nodded to Taoist Master Ming Jian apologetically. Then she turned around and took out an item. She said to Lu Ping, "Lu Daoyu, this is what I got from Zhongxian's cave mansion. I wonder if you can use it?" Items from Zhongxian's cave mansion had appeared several times in this trade fair, but when Fairy Sun took out this item, it still attracted the attention of the cultivators. Fairy Sun took out a palm-sized jar. It was a spatial mystic instrument, but when Lu Ping peered into the jar's mouth, he couldn't see anything inside. Lu Ping looked at Fairy Sun with some surprise. Seeing Fairy Sun's smiling expression, Lu Ping focused and used his divine sense to explore. He found that there was indeed more than half a jar of liquid in the jar, but he couldn't see it with his eyes. Even if he used his divine sense to explore, he had to be very careful to find this kind of thing. Lu Ping said in surprise, This is invisible?" Fairy Sun nodded and said, "To be more precise, this is formless. This thing is called formless water. When used to condense a magical ability, combined with some invisibility techniques, it can make it difficult for a cultivator to be discovered by others. Of course, it is also very helpful in strengthening a cultivator's protective aura." Lu Ping's expression changed. No one knew what he was thinking. Fairy Sun thought that Lu Ping was still hesitating about the sword-cleansing pool and continued. Zhongxian Laozu came from the North Sea Fei Ling sect. Legend has it that the Fei Ling sect had a sword technique called invisible sword technique. This sword technique was created by an expert of the Fei Ling sect for this kind of natural wonder. Using this invisible water to condense stellar energy, if combined with the invisible sword technique, it would be even more mysterious. Legend has it that this is the foundation of a divine ability. When Lu Ping heard invisible sword technique, his heart was like a clap of thunder, and a wave of joy filled his heart. Chapter 312. When Lu Ping heard that this invisible water was actually related to the shapeless sword technique that Sixth Senior Sister gave him, and that it was the foundation of a sword technique, he was already pleasantly surprised. However, Lu Ping's expression remained unchanged. Although Fairy's invisible water has a wonderful effect, this kind of spirit water can only display its greatest power when combined with the shapeless sword incantation. Without the shapeless sword incantation's secret technique, this kind of spirit water can only be used when a cultivator is motionless. Once a fight breaks out, the invisibility spell will be broken. At that time, the effect of the invisible water will even be inferior to the essence of Kuei water. Lu Ping was about to agree, but Spiritual Master Liang Xianfeng suddenly spoke. Lu Ping was stunned and didn't agree in the end. He listened to Spiritual Master Liang Xuanfeng's words. Spiritual Master Liang Xianfeng was actually reminding Lu Ping not to be tempted by the name of invisible water, but he didn't know that Lu Ping had already learned the shapeless sword technique. Spiritual Master Huang Tingjian also said, I've heard of failing sects, invisible water, and shapeless sword technique, but since the destruction of failing sect, many inheritances have been lost, and this shapeless sword technique has never been seen again. I think the sects of North Sea also didn't get this sword technique inheritance from failing sect back then. In that case, this invisible water is a bit of a pity. Lu Ping's expression didn't change. He could already see that Fairy Sun valued this trade fair very much. First, she took out the jade nectar water to exchange for the 3,000 years old spirit herb, and now she was using invisible water to exchange for the myriad poison serum. It seemed that she had an urgent need for it. Sure enough, Spiritual Master Huang Tingjian's seemingly unintentional words were actually to make Lu Ping give up on the invisible water and choose to condense his Gang Qi in Skyrin's sword purification pool. A flash of anger flashed across Fairy Sun's face, but Lu Ping happened to catch it. Lu Ping was sure that this Fairy Sun really had something that she couldn't say, and Skyrin seemed to know. Although the two didn't fall out, Skyrin was now somewhat suspected of taking advantage of the situation. Could it be that this myriad poison syrup had some other function that he didn't know about? Lu Ping stroked his chin as he pondered. However, Lu Ping was determined to get his hands on the invisible water. Lu Ping thought for a moment, and his divine will moved slightly, sending a soft voice into Liang Xuanfeng's ears. Reverend Liang Xianfeng concealed the surprise in his heart with the excuse of drinking tea. After putting down the teacup, he said, the sword cleansing pool is indeed a rare treasure land for cultivators who condense Gang Qi. However, the sword cleansing pool contains countless cultivators of Sky Fisher Sword Sect who have refined, quenched, and washed their swords. It contains the insights of countless senior cultivators of Sky Fisher Sword Sect. The sword cleansing pool is indeed the best choice if my martial nephew wants to cultivate an offensive divine ability. However, what he condenses is Gang Qi, and what he cultivates is a water attribute cultivation method. The sword cleansing pool contains some metal attribute essence, which hinders the purity of Gang Qi. Perfected Liang Xianfeng smiled when he heard Perfected Liang Xuanfeng's words. What Brother Liang said is true, but the sword purification pool is also quite helpful for Lu Xiaoyu to comprehend swordsmanship and improve his cultivation. Perfected Liang Xianfeng smiled, but did not reply. It was obvious that he was rejecting him. On the other hand, the disappointed Fairy Sun's eyes lit up. She seemed to have understood something and moved her lips slightly, but no sound came out. Everyone knew that Fairy Sun was using a voice transmission spell. However, Lu Ping's expression suddenly changed. He thought for a moment and said, if that's the case, I'll exchange it with Fairy Sun's invisible water. My cultivation technique is focused on the word pure. Although the invisible water will lose a lot of its wonders without the invisible sword technique, it is at least a water attribute heaven and earth item. Although the sword purification pool is good, the qi of slaughter in it is too heavy, so I can only let it pass. Lu Ping had obtained the invisible water and Fairy Sun's secret promise. His heart was already blooming with joy. Reverend Huang Tingjian glanced at Fairy Sun and said with a smile, congratulations to Fairy Sun for having your wish come true. This time, Uncle Master Immeasurable might have turned the situation around. Fairy Sun, who had obtained the myriad poison serum, originally had some information. However, after hearing Perfected Huang Tingjian's words, her face darkened instantly. She looked at Perfected Huang Tingjian with an unfriendly gaze. The other Perfected Masters were deep in thought. Many of their eyes lit up. It was obvious that they had noticed something from their conversation. However, Lu Ping and the rest were not from the East Sea and did not know much about the various forces under Skyrend. Lu Ping looked at Chu Ting and thought to himself that the esteemed guest had been operating in the East Sea for many years and had a huge hidden force. This one of the 24 Pavilion Masters might know something. Unexpectedly, Chu Ting rolled her eyes. This is not the area I'm in charge of. Lu Ping shrugged. However, he heard Perfected Huang Tingjian say from the seat of honor, it's my turn to show my treasure. When Lu Ping looked over, he saw Perfected Huang Tingjian draw a circle in front of him with his right hand. An item suddenly appeared in the circle that perfected Huang Tingjian had formed. The cultivators in the quiet room were all curious about what kind of treasure perfected Huang Tingjian would bring out. They all looked at the floating item in front of perfected Huang Tingjian. This is a teapot? Everyone naturally knew that for perfected Huang Tingjian to bring out this teapot as the final item of this trade fair, this teapot must have something special about it. However, the dozens of spiritual wills in the quiet room found that the teapot looked ordinary. It did not look like a Dharma artifact, much less a Dharma treasure. If there was anything special about it, it would be that many cultivators could not tell what material the teapot was made of. Lu Ping sat beside perfected Liang Xianfeng and knew his every move best. When perfected Huang Tingjian took out the teapot, Lu Ping clearly felt perfected Liang Xuanfeng's body tremble slightly, as though he had discovered something that alarmed him. When Lu Ping pretended to casually glance at perfected Liang Xianfeng, he could not find any clues from the latter's face. At perfected Liang Xuanfeng's level of cultivation, there were very few things in the cultivation world that could affect their state of mind unless it was intentional. Their hundreds of years of experience had long given them a state of mind that could calmly endure the reduction of their lifespans and the great loss of their cultivation. Lu Ping was curious as to how this ordinary-looking teapot could disturb a ninth-layer core forging realm cultivator's state of mind. After all, even when enlightened Master Liang Xuanfeng's origin was damaged and his cultivation base might not be able to progress any further, he was still able to chat with Lu Ping casually, as if nothing could disturb him. Perfected Huang Tingjian saw that the teapot had whetted everyone's appetite, so he said, "This teapot is actually a Dharma treasure." Many perfected masters in the room were in disbelief. If it was a Dharma treasure, why didn't they find the existence of a treasure restriction inside? Looking at the expressions of the cultivators in the quiet room, perfected Huang Tingjian smiled faintly and reached out to take off the lid of the teapot. A wave of pure spirit chi gushed out from the teapot. Everyone was shocked. Then, their spiritual wills probed the inside of the teapot and found that there were actually 2 treasured seals engraved inside. It really is a Dharma treasure. It's not just a Dharma treasure. Could it be a Grotto Heaven Dharma treasure? A Grotto Heaven Dharma treasure? Could it be the spatial Dharma treasure that the Crystal Palace hoped to find in the Zhongxian Grotto Heaven? How did it become a Dharma treasure? What Grotto Heaven Dharma treasure? Which Grotto Heaven Dharma treasure would have such a small space inside? That's true. This Dharma treasure is strange. Why is the spirit chi inside so pure? Perfected Huang Tingjian saw everyone looking at him in confusion, so he coughed and said, "I wonder if anyone has heard of a spirit gathering pot?" "What? This is a spirit gathering pot. What is a spirit gathering pot?" Some of the cultivators in the room asked in surprise while others were confused. Lu Ping was one of them. Perfected Liang Xianfeng was just as surprised as everyone else. Perfected Huang Tingjian glanced at perfected Liang Xianfeng before turning away. However, no matter how Lu Ping looked at him, he felt that perfected Liang Xianfeng was a little pretentious. Perhaps it was because perfected Liang Xuanfeng's body had inexplicably trembled when the spirit gathering pot appeared, which gave Lu Ping a preconceived impression. A spirit gathering magic treasure was a type of magic treasure used to confine and move spirit veins to prevent them from dispersing. Spirit veins were one of the foundations of a cultivator's cultivation, and it was also the foundation of every sect that could survive for tens of thousands of years. A spirit-gathering magic treasure was an important factor in ensuring that this foundation would not be lost. The spirit-gathering pot was a type of spirit-gathering pot. After understanding the function of the spirit-gathering pot, the cultivators looked at the spirit-gathering pot with an inexplicable look in their eyes. At the same time, they were puzzled as to why perfected Huang Tingjian would put such a treasure in the trade fair. If Lu Ping had this treasure, if he encountered the spirit veins of Golden Scale Mansion or Zhongxian's cave dwelling, he could first store the spirit veins into his spirit-gathering treasure instead of helplessly letting them go like he did before. Is perfected Huang really willing to trade this item? A late-stage core forging sage was clearly doubtful. Of course. Don't doubt it, Daoist Yun. Although this item is precious, it may not be able to catch my eye, Skyrend. Lu Ping thought to himself that there was definitely something fishy going on. In any sect, a spirit-gathering pot was something that they would rather not use than let others have. Why would Skyrim be so generous? Some people in the room clearly realized this problem, but the cultivators belonging to some sects couldn't care less. There was no reason for them to let a treasure disappear before their eyes. What does Perfected Huang want to trade this item for? One of the cultivators finally asked the question that was on everyone's mind. Chapter 313. In the end, a cultivator from the Eastern Sea Independent Sect exchanged the spirit-gathering pot for 5 spirit-gathering pearls that could nurture small spirit veins, which was almost half a medium spirit vein. The cultivator who exchanged the spirit-gathering pot had a pained look on his face. He stuffed the pot into his storage space and left in a hurry. In the quiet room, a total of 20 to 30 perfected masters showed their treasures one by one. The rest of the time was free trading time for the cultivators. However, Lu Ping noticed that after the free trading began, several perfected masters left. Without exception, all of them were late-stage core forging realm experts. Lu Ping secretly pondered, but he heard Liang Xuanfeng's voice transmission. There's nothing to see in this trade fair. Uncle Master, I'll be leaving first. You can return to the inn after the trade fair. Uncle Master, are you here for the spirit-gathering pot? Lu Ping saw perfected Master Liang Xianfeng walking to the door of the quiet room and hurriedly transmitted his voice to him. Perfected Master Liang Xuanfeng's figure paused, but he did not reply and left directly. Perfected Master Liang Xuanfeng's departure did not attract much attention. After all, it was normal for a 9th-stage core forging realm expert to look down on the items in this trade fair. When Lu Ping turned to look, perfected Master Huang Tingjian was nowhere to be seen. In the quiet room, cultivators gathered in 2s and 3s, discussing secretly with each other through voice transmission. Lu Ping did not know what they were talking about. From time to time, cultivators would exchange storage bags and other items with satisfied smiles. There were also cultivators who seemed to have broken off and separated, strolling to other groups of cultivators to continue their secret discussion. When Lu Ping saw that a cultivator he noticed had just separated from another cultivator, he walked up and asked in a low voice, "Did you want to exchange my myriad poison serum with the frost true water?" The cultivator's eyes lit up when he saw Lu Ping. He said, "So it's Master Lu. Do you still have the myriad poison serum with you?" Lu Ping shook his head and said, "The myriad poison liquid was obtained by a fluke in a strange and dangerous place. It's already a great fortune to have this portion, so how could there be any left? I just want to ask if fellow Taoist can use other things to exchange for the icy true water." Hearing Lu Ping say that he no longer had the myriad poison plasma, the cultivator was slightly disappointed. However, in this trade fair, everyone was holding back, so the cultivator might not really believe that Lu Ping did not have the myriad poison plasma in his hands. Lu Ping also did not expect that his words would be able to convince people. He just wanted to show that even if he had the myriad poison plasma, he would not exchange it for the true ice water. The cultivator hesitated for a moment before saying, "It's not that I can't give this glacial true water to fellow Taoist. It's just that it wasn't easy for me to obtain this glacial true water. If fellow Taoist doesn't have something of the same weight as the myriad poison paste, I won't exchange it no matter what." Seeing that the friar spoke so straightforwardly, Lu Ping smiled and said, "What does fellow Taoist need? If Grandmaster Lu has a water-attributed worldly miraculous treasure like the myriad poison plasma, I will exchange it with you. If not, I need a water-attributed defensive magic treasure." Lu Ping himself did not have a water-attributed defensive magic treasure. Lu Ping dryly smiled and said, "Is there anything else that fellow Taoist needs?" The cultivator shook his head and said, "I only need these 2 things. I won't exchange anything else." Seeing the resolute attitude of the cultivator, Lu Ping felt somewhat helpless. The glacial true water was crucial to the improvement of a treasure that Lu Ping envisioned. If he missed this opportunity today, he did not know when he would be able to see this ice-attributed worldly miraculous treasure again. However, Lu Ping's 2 transactions had already attracted the attention of many people. If Lu Ping took out the myriad poison plasma or the sunflower water essence to exchange, it would be too eye-catching. "What are the 2 of you talking about?" Just when the atmosphere between the two of them was somewhat deadlocked, Taoist Ming Jian suddenly walked over with a smile. Lu Ping's eyes lit up. He suddenly had an idea. So he turned to Taoist Ming Jian and said with a smile, "Senior, you came at the right time. Just now at the trade fair, Junior saw Taoist Ming Jian exchange for top-grade wood-attributed spiritual materials several times. I wonder if Senior still needs them now." After Taoist Ming Jian exchanged a large piece of nether cyan iron for the Millennium Locust Tree Heart at the beginning, he repeatedly traded. As long as a cultivator presented a wood-attributed top-grade spiritual material, Taoist Ming Jian would exchange it no matter how many it was. Therefore, Lu Ping guessed that Taoist Ming Jian definitely needed wood-attributed top-grade spiritual materials. Sure enough, after Taoist Ming Jian heard that Lu Ping had wood-attributed spiritual materials, he looked delighted and said, "Lu Xiaoyu is really a cultivator with many treasures. If it's wood-attributed spiritual materials, the more the better. To tell you the truth, I, Skyrend, obtained a set of sword formation in the heavy, profound cave mansion, but it needs a wood-attributed flying sword to maximize the power of the formation. Therefore, it needs a lot of wood-attributed spiritual materials." Lu Ping didn't know why enlightened Master Ming Jian would reveal such a secret of the sect, but he still said, "I do have a wood elemental spirit material in my possession, but I need your sword cleansing pool." Taoist Ming Jian was stunned and said, "Didn't Junior already exchange invisible water with Fairy Sun? Why do you want to use the sword purification pool again?" Lu Ping pointed to the cultivator in front of him and said, "It's not Junior. It's this fellow Taoist." The cultivator in front of Lu Ping already knew Lu Ping's plan. He smiled and said, "That's a good idea. I'll give the frigid true water to fellow Taoist Lu, but in return, I'll trade the frigid true water with Sky Fisher Sword Sect in exchange for the right to condense energy in the sword cleansing pool. Then, fellow Taoist Lu will receive the frigid true water and hand over the spirit materials to enlighten Ming Jian. This way, each of us will get what we need." Taoist Ming Jian said with a smile, "This is a good idea, but what kind of spiritual material do you have in your hands?" Lu Ping smiled and handed a piece of charred peach wood to Taoist Ming Jian. Taoist Ming Jian exclaimed and praised, "Thousand-year lightning peachwood. It's really good stuff. It's not inferior to third-class spiritual materials." In this way, the three of them completed the transaction. Lu Ping returned to his position and no longer dealt with the crowd. Lu Ping could be said to have gained a lot from this trade fair. He had obtained 3 mystical items in one go. Not only did he have the chance to improve his protective aura to the lesser level, but he also had enough spirit water for the 3 pure one's true pupils. Not to mention, there was also the unexpected surprise of the Ice Enlightened Master. However, while Lu Ping was happy, he also felt a little uneasy. This time, he had shown too many trump cards and was in the limelight. Even though he had the halo of an alchemy master and an expert like Taoist Liang Xianfeng as his backing, he was still only a first-stage core forging realm cultivator. Taoist Liang Xianfeng couldn't always follow him, so it was inevitable that he would be coveted by people with ulterior motives. Moreover, Taoist Liang Xuanfeng's sudden departure after the appearance of the essence condensing pot also cast a shadow over Lu Ping. This time, Skyren publicly traded the essence condensing pot at the trade fair. It was obvious that he was plotting something, and Taoist Liang Xuanfeng's unusual behavior seemed to prove Lu Ping's guess. After all, the essence condensing pot was obtained by Skyrend in Zhongshuan's cave, and Zhongshuan Laozu was a remnant of the North Sea failing sect. Thinking of Taoist Huang Tingjian's probing and observation of Taoist Liang Xianfeng at the trade fair, Lu Ping's heart trembled. Could this be a plot by Skyrend against Taoist Liang Xianfeng? However, Lu Ping immediately denied this idea. If it was against Taoist Liang Xianfeng, with Skyrend's power, there was no need to go through so much trouble. Moreover, after the transaction of the essence condensing pot, many late-stage core forging realm perfected masters representing various forces left the trade fair. Obviously, the cultivators weren't targeting a certain person, but the essence condensing pot. However, although a spirit condensing magic treasure was rare, it wasn't worth Skyrend setting up such a big trap. Almost all the sects and forces in the southern East Sea, second only to Skyrend, were involved. Lu Ping couldn't figure it out no matter how much he thought about it, so he stopped thinking about it. Several late-stage core forging realm perfected masters left in a hurry, causing everyone at the trade fair to sense an unusual atmosphere. Although Taoist Mingjian and Taoist Jin tried their best to deal with the situation, the free trade fair still ended quickly. After obtaining the frost true water, Lu Ping sat quietly. Even if some cultivators approached him to strike up a conversation, he would politely decline them. After the trade fair ended, he left in a hurry with Zhu Xianming. After returning to the inn, Chu Ting seemed to have also received some news. After saying goodbye, she also left. Lu Ping and Zhu Xianming each obtained something from the trade fair, so they were busy cultivating in seclusion. At the same time, the two of them seemed to have sensed that Zhu Xuanming's master, Taoist Mei, had an ambiguous relationship with Zhenling. This kind of relationship also made Taoist Liang, who was aware of the situation, keep his mouth shut, unwilling to say anything in front of the two. For several days, there was no news from Taoist Liang. Lu Ping, on the other hand, was busy cultivating. His cultivation was only a step away from breaking through to the second stage of core forging. As long as he made this breakthrough and consolidated his cultivation, Lu Ping, who had the heart-forging pill in hand, could directly prepare to break through to the mid-stage of core forging. On this day, after Lu Ping used the true jade water to cleanse his eyes, he also condensed a strand of invisible water in the House of Gold. The originally faint golden earth energy became more and more transparent. Under the transformation of the earth energy, Lu Ping's figure also became more and more ethereal, like a reflection in the water. The spiritual herb garden in the House of Gold grew bigger and bigger. The originally lively spatial artifact became much quieter. After Samling broke through to the 8th stage of blood condensation and consolidated his cultivation, Lu Ping refined the heart-forging pill for them. Now, he was cultivating in seclusion. Lu Qin's with Luanyu, who was originally flying side by side with Lu Qin, was stimulated by Lu Ping. She found a secluded corner in the space and prepared to break through to the core forging realm. Without a playmate, Lu Qin had no choice but to study the secret technique Yin Wujiu taught her. Lu Dague stayed in the small lake at the peak of Lone Mountain. His cultivation was also on the verge of breaking through to the late stage of blood condensation. As for Dabeo, he was determined to build a huge underground labyrinth in the spatial artifact. During this period of time, he was rarely seen on the surface. Lu Ping was studying the invisible sword technique when he suddenly sensed something. With a step, Lu Ping walked out of a small golden door and arrived at a cultivation room. With a wave of his hand, he stored the House of Gold into his storage ring. After that, Lu Ping took out a talisman that was spinning at the door of the cultivation room. After scanning it with his divine sense, he murmured, "I came just in time." After leaving the cultivation room, he went to the guest room at the back of the inn. He saw Zhu Xianming chatting happily with a female cultivator. When Lu Ping came out, the female cultivator stood up and said, "We haven't seen each other for a few days. Master Lu's cultivation has improved." The female cultivator was Fairy Sun, whom Lu Ping met at the trade fair that day. Lu Ping cupped his hands and smiled. "Don't mention the title of Grandmaster anymore. I was just lucky enough to successfully concoct a few core forging realm medicinal pellets. Compared to a real Grandmaster alchemist, I'm still far from it. Fairy Maiden, you keep calling me Grandmaster, which makes me feel awkward." Fairy Sun smiled and said, "If that's the case, then I've overstepped my boundaries." Zhu Xianming knew that Fairy Sun came specifically for Lu Ping, so she found an excuse to leave. Lu Ping took a sip of the spirit tea and said, "When I was trading with Fairy Sun for the invisible water, you said that you know about the bejeweled water. Is that true?" Fairy Sun praised, "Good tea." She put down the teacup and said with a smile, "If it's false, how would I dare to come here today to taste your tea?" That day, Fairy Sun mistakenly thought that Lu Ping was having a hard time choosing between her invisible water and Skyrin's sword-cleansing pond, so she secretly transmitted her voice to Lu Ping that she knew the whereabouts of the bejeweled water. Lu Ping had long admired the invisible water, but he wouldn't refuse a benefit that was delivered to his doorstep. Lu Ping pondered for a while, then said, "Although the bejeweled nectar is a mysterious object of heaven and earth, it's only used to show that after using the two to cleanse one's eyes, One's vision is more mysterious. I've never heard of two mysterious objects existing together. Fairy Son, are you trying to deceive me? It's absolutely true. Fairy Sun said solemnly, that day, after I came out of Zhong Xian's cave mansion, I was chased by a monster cultivator. I accidentally found these two mysterious objects on an island. At that time, I only took the true jade water, but that monster cultivator chased after me. I had no choice but to flee. Chapter 314. Lu Ping would never have thought that Goddess Sun would actually take out such a formula, causing Lu Ping to willingly hand over the 15 3,000-year-old spirit herbs without the slightest hesitation. 10 years of lifespan. The name of the elixir recorded in this formula was very ordinary, but also very practical. Longevity elixir. No wonder Goddess Sun would spare no effort to collect 3,000-year-old spirit herbs. No wonder she would view the myriad poison serum as a treasure. All of this was because in the process of refining the longevity elixir, these two treasures were indispensable. It was just unknown whether that Lao Tzu of the Sun family would still have the opportunity to advance to the mid-Dharma stage under the condition of extending his lifespan by 10 years. Otherwise, without the support of Dharma Lao Tzu, the Sun family's relatively independent status in Skyrin's sphere of influence would undoubtedly be lost. Without the protection of Dharma Lao Tzu, the Sun family would naturally have to rely on Skyrind. This was also why at the trade fair, spiritual master Huang Tingjian had hinted to Lu Ping to give up on the shapeless water. After setting a time with Goddess Sun to go to the outer endless sea, Lu Ping once again went into seclusion to practice, and there was still no news from spiritual master Liang. A bowl of shapeless water was slowly condensed by Lu Ping into the Gang Qi. As the last bit of spirit water disappeared, Lu Ping quickly activated the Water Curtain True Gang training method. The surface of Lu Ping's body was tightly wrapped in a thin layer of Gang Qi. First, a light blue color flashed, followed by a golden Gang Qi. Then, Lu Ping's body slowly disappeared from head to toe, as if his whole body was slowly swallowed up. Then, the light blue color appeared again, and Lu Ping slowly appeared from head to toe in the Gang Qi. The three scenes changed faster and faster, and Lu Ping's figure became more and more ethereal in the Gang Qi. After Lu Ping's Gang Qi had changed 81 times, the myriad poison meteorite energy gang, the Yin Water True Gang, and the invisible Gang Qi in Lu Ping's body completely fused together. A feeling of being able to change at will suddenly appeared in Lu Ping's divine thought. With a thought from Lu Ping, the protective aura around his body spread out, and Lu Ping disappeared from the space of the House of Gold. With another thought from Lu Ping, the invisibility effect of the formless water disappeared. However, the defensive power of the protective aura around his body did not change at all. The area within Wenzhong around Lu Ping was enveloped in a layer of faint golden mist. From afar, Lu Ping looked like an immortal descending from the heavens. Lu Ping had finally mastered his first minor divine power, Water Curtain True Kong. Congratulations, Daddy, on mastering your minor divine power. Lu Ping retracted the protective aura around him and saw three children around 7 to 8 years old standing together. They greeted Lu Ping respectfully and congratulated Lu Ping in their childish voices. Lu Ping laughed heartily and said, "The Water Curtain True Astral Shield is just a small skill that relies on external forces. It's only a defensive skill. When I, your father, have mastered a great skill, then I'll be considered a great achievement among cultivators of the same level." Lu Ping pointed at the three children and said with a smile, "On the other hand, the three of you have broken through to the peak of the blood condensation realm. You are only one step away from the golden core realm. That is the real good news." The three children were overjoyed when they heard Lu Ping's praise. They danced around in the House of Gold. The three boys were none other than the emerald sea spirit snakes. After consuming the half-transformation pellets Lu Ping had concocted for them, they were able to take human form. However, other than their upper bodies that were identical to humans, their legs weren't visible. Their upper bodies were still supported by a large snake tail. Among the three children, Lu Bai and Lu Ling looked like two little girls while Lu Hai looked like a little boy. All three of them had baby fat on their faces. Their innocent eyes were filled with admiration for Lu Ping. In fact, after reaching the late blood condensation realm, demonic beasts could transform into human form by consuming the half-step transformation pill. However, just like the green phoenix, Samling was unwilling to consume the half-step transformation pill after reaching the late blood condensation realm. This puzzled Lu Ping. Later, Lu Ping found out that demonic beasts would still have many demonic beast characteristics on their bodies after reaching the late blood condensation realm. For example, Samling could only transform his upper body into human form when he was at the late blood condensation realm. If Samling chose to transform when he was at the 7th layer, then Samling's appearance would most likely be a monster covered in scales with a forked tongue sticking out of his mouth. He would not be as lovable as he was now. Samling discovered this from his inherited memories. That was why he chose to transform after reaching the 9th layer of the blood condensation realm. It was also for this reason that the Cyan Yuan had always refused to take the half-step transformation pill, even though her cultivation level had long been on the verge of breaking through to the gold core stage. According to her, the reason was that after the half-step transformation pill, the Cyan Yuan's physical characteristics were exactly the same as a human's except for its beak. However, it was this beak that made Lu Qin decide to postpone the half-step transformation pill until she reached the core forging stage. What made Lu Ping laugh was that even though they were both Luans, the green phoenix, Lu Qin, and the wood phoenix, Luan Yu, retained different demonic beast characteristics after reaching the half-step transformation realm. Lu Qin retained her beak, while Luan Yu had a long neck. What surprised Lu Ping was that Lu Qin actually knew what he would look like after reaching the half-step transformation realm. This was obviously from her memories. According to Lu Ping's knowledge, the inherited memories could only be passed down among demonic beasts like Samling. It seemed that Lu Qin really did have half of the fire phoenix bloodline in her body. No wonder Yin Wuju valued her so much. Lu Ping waved his hand and said, "The three of you should hurry up and cultivate. In the future, when we return to the fallen secret realm, there is still an important matter to attend to. Father is currently in urgent need of manpower. Now that you have succeeded in your cultivation, you can help Father greatly." When Samling heard that he could help Lu Ping, he was overjoyed. After being encouraged by Lu Ping, he happily ran off to cultivate. A few days later, Lu Ping and Sun Xinzi secretly arrived at the Outer Sea. At this time, the Outer Sea had completely turned into a sea of demonic beasts. In the past, this sea could only be regarded as the border between the human and demonic beasts of the Eastern Sea, equivalent to the buffer sea of the Northern Sea. But now, it had become the front line of demonic beasts. Lu Ping's expression was a bit ugly as he looked at the place where Sun Xinzi had brought him. There was only a pile of rocks here. How could there be any bejeweled water? Sun Xinzi was obviously also startled, but she immediately explained to Lu Ping, "Lu Daoyu, there really was bejeweled water here before. That day, when I obtained the bejeweled water here, the bejeweled water was inside a towering rock. Because I really didn't have time to take it away, I had to leave first. At that time, this place was not a pile of rocks, but a stone valley. Now that it has become like this, it was clearly deliberately destroyed by demonic beasts." Lu Ping nodded. "I believe Fairy's words, but I am curious how Fairy found the two types of bejeweled water wrapped in a huge rock. If you add in the formless water found in the heavy profound cave, then Fairy's luck is a bit too good." Hearing that Lu Ping didn't have any prejudice against her because of the bejeweled water, Sun Xinzi heaved a sigh of relief. She didn't know why, but even though Lu Ping was only a first-layer core forging realm cultivator, Sun Xinzi was a little afraid of offending him. After losing the bejeweled water, Sun Xinzi was still a mid-core forging realm cultivator, but the first thing she thought of was to absolve herself in front of Lu Ping, as if she was really afraid that Lu Ping would bear a grudge against the Sun Clan because of this. The island had long been occupied by demonic beasts. Lu Ping spread out his divine sense, and the number of demonic beasts in a radius of a few li was extremely large. Lu Ping was secretly alarmed. Could it be that there will also be a beast tide in the East Sea? Just as the two were about to leave, A half-transformed peak blood condensation demonic beast slowly walked in their direction. Behind this demonic beast were several blood condensation demonic beasts of various shapes and sizes. They barely formed a line, as if they were patrolling the island. Lu Ping and Sun Xianzi glanced at each other, then secretly moved forward. Suddenly, Lu Ping's golden scale sword flashed, and 3 late blood condensation demonic beasts were already beheaded. As the golden scale sword flew out, Lu Ping pointed with his finger, and 2 silver lights flashed. The 2 demonic beasts groaned, and 2 flowers of blood burst out from their chests, and their bodies fell to the ground. The 6th demonic beast opened its mouth to scream, but a cold snort suddenly sounded in its mind. The demonic beast's eyes glazed over, clearly shocked by Lu Ping's powerful divine sense. Just as Lu Ping silently killed the 6 late blood condensation demonic beasts, Sun Xianzi threw out a bamboo cage-like artifact and trapped the leading peak blood condensation demonic beast inside. No matter how the demonic beast beat and roared inside the bamboo cage, not a single sound came out. Fairy Sun looked at the 6 demonic beasts on the ground and praised. Lu Daoyu killed 6 late blood condensation demonic beasts in an instant. You're really amazing. Lu Ping smiled. Fairy Sun must be joking. Fairy Sun also said that these 6 demonic beasts were only blood condensation demonic beasts. I'm a core forging enlightened master, and I killed 6 demonic beasts effortlessly. Even so, I don't deserve such praise from Fairy Sun. Fairy Sun shook her head and said solemnly, it's easy for a first-stage core forging cultivator to kill a few late blood condensation demonic beasts, but it's extremely difficult to prevent them from making a sound. Lu Ping smiled, but didn't reply. Fairy Sun didn't mind. She extended her hand through the gap in the cage, but the roaring monster didn't seem to notice. Fairy Sun's hand slapped the monster's head. The monster's head jerked backwards and its eyes began to turn white. A moment later, Fairy Sun pulled her hand out of the bamboo cage, and the demonic beast fell back. Seeing Fairy Sun's serious expression, Lu Ping asked, could it be that the demonic cultivator who obtained the bejeweled nectar is extremely difficult to deal with? Fairy Sun nodded. Yes, the leader of this generation of demonic beasts is from the Kuan clan. Kuan? Lu Ping was startled. He immediately thought of the demonic cultivator that he and Chu Ting barely managed to fend off. After it transformed into its original form, it was an incomparably huge Kuan. Chapter 315. These demon generals were the seeds of the demon cultivators who could advance to the core forging realm. Their status was similar to that of the Zhenling sect's elite disciples. After advancing to the mid-blood condensation realm, they were required to leave behind a lamp of knowledge in the sect. If a cultivator died outside, the lamp of knowledge would be extinguished, and the sect could use the clues left behind by the lamp of knowledge to track down the murderer. Obviously, this peak blood condensation realm demon general was one of them. The moment Lu Ping killed it, the demon manor lord noticed it. Lu Ping was also shocked. The roar belonged to none other than the Kuan fish that Lu Ping and Chu Ting had fought together. Although Lu Ping knew that he wasn't its opponent, it would be extremely difficult for the Kuan fish to kill him. Not to mention, he had the help of Fairy Sun, a 4th-layer core forging expert. However, the 2 of them were currently in the midst of a horde of demon beasts. If they got entangled with the demon cultivators, they would definitely be surrounded by the other enlightened demonic cultivators. At that time, the 2 of them would really have nowhere to run. The surface of the sea was torn apart, as if a small mountain suddenly flew out from the bottom of the sea. The huge Kuan fish broke out of the water, and the seawater in the sky turned into water arrows and ice blades, flying towards the fleeing Lu Ping and Fairy Sunday. Fairy Sun didn't even turn her head. She formed an incantation gesture with her hand and waved it behind her. The water arrows and ice blades that filled the sky turned back into water droplets and fell into the sea. They splashed up countless bubbles, as if a rainstorm had fallen. It's you two. This manor lord knows the 2 of you. The Kuan fish opened its huge eyes, which were like a window, and looked at the 2 fleeing people. Its huge body dived into the sea, and suddenly, huge waves surged up from the surface of the sea. The huge waves rapidly advanced, turning into a huge mouth that swallowed the two of them. Lu Ping suddenly turned around and stopped. A sparkling white jade bracelet floated in front of Lu Ping's chest. Lu Ping pointed at the surging waves and shouted, "Ice!" A white cold mist suddenly spread out from the jade bracelet, turning into a thin layer that wrapped around the waves. When the white mist dissipated, the huge mouth formed by the waves had already turned into a huge mouth of ice. It floated on the surface of the sea, moving up and down with the turbulence of the sea. Just as Lu Ping turned to leave, a crisp sound of ice breaking could be heard. A blue-black figure flashed in the sky and disappeared. Fairy Sun shouted, "Be careful, it's a core-forging shadowfish." However, the figure's speed was too fast. Lu Ping didn't even notice that there was such a killer hidden in the surging waves. At this time, Lu Ping had no time to take any defensive measures other than his protective aura. Ding, there was a crisp sound, and an invisible aura chi fluctuated. The shadowfish monster looked on in astonishment as it unexpectedly blocked his attack. As the aura chi rose up, Lu Ping suddenly disappeared from the shadowfish monster's eyes. Lu Ping took advantage of this opportunity to quickly escape. The true essence within his body had been stirred up by the shadowfish monster's attack. However, Lu Ping's protective true aura shield was able to block a direct attack from a core forging cultivator. The shadowfish monster was about to chase after them, but it heard a strange sound from the seabed. It immediately stopped, watching as Lu Ping and Fairy Sun disappeared into the horizon. Suddenly, a crack appeared in the seawater. An elegant young man stood on a splash of water, slowly rising into the sky. The shadowfish demon bowed slightly to the young man, then disappeared without a trace. The young man turned his head to look at his own shadow on the surface of the sea and smiled. A gust of wind blew, and the young man's figure disappeared from the surface of the sea. Far away from the open sea, two streaks of light descended, turning into a man and a woman. They were Lu Ping and Fairy Sunday. I didn't expect Lu Daoyu to have cultivated a small protective true aura shield. The shadowfish monster is a famous existence in the East Sea demon tribe. That shadowfish monster was also at the first layer of the core forging realm, but fellow Daoyu's protective true aura shield was able to withstand a strike from its magic treasure without breaking. This is truly amazing. Such a defensive strength is no less than an ordinary protective magic treasure. Fairy Sun was clearly amazed by the power of Lu Ping's true aura shield. Lu Ping modestly said, "It's all thanks to Fairy Sun's shapeless water, or else I wouldn't have been able to cultivate a small true aura shield so quickly." Fairy Sun sweetly smiled. Lu Daoyu is too modest. How could a normal cultivator's protective true aura shield have such power? My bowl of shapeless water is enough for 2 or 3 cultivators to condense their righteous chi. Don't tell me Lu Daoyu condensed so much spirit water by himself? Lu Ping smiled and didn't say anything. Fairy Sun didn't mind and said, "Unfortunately, I didn't obtain the bejeweled nectar this time. When I fought with the Kuan fish monster, I already sensed that the bejeweled nectar had indeed been obtained by the Kuan fish monster. This time, I have let Lu Daoyu down." Lu Ping shook his head and instead said, "Fairy Sun really has a secret technique to detect spirit water?" Fairy Sun opened her jade-like hand, and a drop of green water slowly condensed in her hand. Then, it began to spin in her palm. Spirit communication true water. No wonder. Lu Ping looked at the drop of water in Fairy Sun's hand and suddenly realized. It is indeed spiritual true water. This is a high-grade profound rank heaven-earth spirit water that I used to condense my gold core spirituality when I advanced to the mid-core forging stage. Using this heaven-earth spirit water, I cultivated a divine ability that allows me to detect other heaven-earth spirit water within a certain distance. Of course, I can't detect heaven-earth spirit water because all heaven-earth spirit water contains a trace of spirituality bestowed by heaven and earth. My divine ability is powerless. Lu Ping said enviously, "No wonder you have the invisible water and jade liquid clear water in your possession. Your skills are truly amazing." The news that the bejeweled nectar had been obtained by the Kuan fish monster made Lu Ping quite depressed. Seeing that Lu Ping's Tripier True Pupils was only one step away from becoming a second technique, Lu Ping could only regretfully bid farewell to Fairy Sunday. Recently, the southern East Sea was once again in turmoil. Flying Fish Island was a large power in the southern East Sea, second only to Skyrend. It was said that there were 3 Dharma adepts on the island. Flying Fish Island's Taoist Xia exchanged for a spirit-gathering magic treasure from Taoist Huang Tingjian at the Silver Sword Islands trade fair, but on his way back to Flying Fish Island, he was repeatedly killed by mysterious cultivators. Fortunately, most of these cultivators were acting alone and Taoist Xia was not weak. At the same time, he also had the help of a mysterious late-stage core forging cultivator. Taoist Xia was able to break through the blockade and rendezvous with the cultivators from the Flying Fish Island, bringing the spirit-gathering magic treasure back to the Flying Fish Island. However, on that night, another battle broke out on Flying Fish Island. A late core forging cultivator snuck into Flying Fish Island's treasure house, intending to steal the spirit-gathering magic treasure. Unexpectedly, he was discovered by Flying Fish Island's Dharma adepts, and the cultivator was forced to retreat. When the news came, the East Sea's cultivation world was in an uproar again. This cultivator who snuck into Flying Fish Island not only escaped unscathed after Dharma adepts Laozu attacked, but also conveniently stole 2 magic treasures from the treasure house, causing Flying Fish Island to lose a lot of face. When Lu Ping heard the news, he quickly returned to Silver Sword Island, only to find that Zhu Xianming had already left the inn. Lu Ping paced back and forth in the inn's cave for a while. Suddenly, he pointed at the wall of his cultivation room and made a few hand seals. A small crack suddenly appeared on the wall, and a jade slip was placed inside. This was Zhenling's secret communication method. Even if this jade slip was discovered by others, if they did not know Zhenling's secret restriction technique, the jade slip would be crushed to pieces if they tried to break the restriction. Lu Ping probed the jade slip with his divine sense and found that Sage Liang Xianfeng had returned when Lu Ping went out. However, due to the urgency of the matter, Sage Liang Xianfeng did not have time to stay and left with Zhu Xianming. The jade slip only gave Lu Ping a date to return to Zhenling's camp in the northern part of the Fallen Mystery region. A few days later, the long-distance teleportation array formation in the North Alliance's Qianyuan city suddenly lit up. Under the surprised gazes of the North Alliance cultivators guarding the array formation, Lu Ping slowly walked out of the array formation and left. Lu Ping walked around Heaven Essence City and found that the city was now enveloped in a solemn atmosphere of war. After thinking about it, Lu Ping rented an Earth-grade cave mansion in Heaven Essence City and placed the Golden House on top of the cultivation room's spirit vein. From the Earth-grade cave mansion, dense spirit energy, equivalent to a mid-grade spirit vein, immediately flowed into the Golden House. On the second day after Lu Ping returned to Heaven Essence City, Chu Ting came to the cave mansion to visit. Lu Ping welcomed her into the cave mansion and said with a smile, "The boudoir is very well informed. I just arrived in Heaven Essence City yesterday, and Miss Chu already received the news today. She even found out where I was staying." Chu Ting's expression was a little solemn as she said, "Brother Lu, now is not the time to joke. The confrontation between the Eastern Sea's human and demon races is getting more and more serious. The snake demon race is already pressing against the Northern Alliance. A war is about to break out. We need to speed up our plan." Lu Ping said curiously, "I've heard about the conflict between the Eastern Sea's human and demon races. What I'm curious about is why the Eastern Sea's snake demon race massacred the Shangguan family on Drumbell Island. That's not clear." Chu Ting was also a little puzzled. She said, "But there's news from the demon race. The incident on Drumbell Island should be related to the green sea snake." Lu Ping suppressed the surprise in his heart and asked, "Didn't I hear that one person from the Shangguan family is still alive? Won't the truth come to light once we find him?" Chu Ting sneered and said, "Who would know that the Shangguan family is actually from the Middle Earth? There's actually a one-time super long-distance teleportation formation on Drumbell Island. When the Northern Alliance's reinforcements arrived, the teleportation formation had already been activated. After searching the souls of the captured demon race captives, we found out that the person who ran away was Shangguan Hao." Lu Ping was quite surprised to hear that the small Shangguan family actually had connections with the Middle Earth. But since Shangguan Hao had already left the Eastern Sea, the news that he had the green sea snake on him would not be exposed in a short period of time. Seeing that Lu Ping was deep in thought, Chu Ting could not help but remind him, "Brother Lu, are you really not going to accept the help of the boudoir? Are you really going to use your own strength to expel the Wang family from the fallen mystery land?" Of course, Lu Ping knew that this was the main reason why Chu Ting had visited him today. He smiled and said, "Like I said, I am willing to cooperate with the boudoir. But if you want to hand over the fallen mystery land, that is absolutely impossible. Hearing Wave Island can only be a force under my control." Chu Ting purposely sighed and said, "I have already contacted 2 core forging masters to help Brother Lu. However, if Brother Lu insists on taking over the Wang clan's island in the hidden realm of the perished with your own strength, then the boudoir pavilion will only be able to contain the Wang clan's main force on the island." Lu Ping smiled and said, "1 year should be enough for the operation." Chapter 316. After sending Chu Ting off, Lu Ping took out a jade slip and carefully read its contents. It recorded some information about the Wang family of the Three Families Island. Lu Ping carefully thought about the Wang family's arrangement in the fallen secret land and compared it with the power he had in his hands. His expression didn't change, but he made a few hand seals and sent out 2 sound-transmitting swords. Then he completely sealed the cave mansion and began to cultivate in seclusion. 3 months later, the spiritual energy within a few miles radius of Lu Ping's cave dwelling fluctuated again. The phenomenon caused by his breakthrough appeared above the cave dwelling again. But this time, the phenomenon was much smaller. Apart from the tide of spiritual force caused by the gathering of spiritual qi, only the flowers and trees within 1,000 feet of the cave mansion fell towards the direction of the cave mansion. After the phenomenon disappeared, the large plants like trees returned to their original state. However, the delicate plants like flowers and grass still bowed in the direction of the cave mansion rented by Lu Ping. In the golden house of the cultivation room of the cave mansion, Lu Ping looked at some of the things that happened in the space and said to himself with lingering fear, "Fortunately, the spatial magic tool weakened the phenomenon. Otherwise, who knows how much trouble it would have caused. Even if I suddenly become a target of everyone, I wouldn't be able to say anything. Is this the reason why the Wood Luan bird clan was almost exterminated? Because of the spatial magic tool, the phenomenon outside the cave mansion was weakened by the golden house. After the Wood Luan Yu formed his gold core, it didn't attract the attention of the people in Qinyuan City. After all, it was just an ordinary core forging sage. Looking at the scale of the phenomenon caused by his breakthrough, it was likely that his cultivation would remain at the early core forging stage for the rest of his life. In the Golden House, Lu Ping had already opened up a large spirit herb garden on the plain beneath Lone Mountain. If it weren't for the fact that Lu Ping was constantly on the move, he would have opened up a larger spirit herb garden in the mystic space and the Qianzhong millet mystic instrument with him. Without the spirit vein's long-term nourishment, Lu Ping might have opened up a larger spirit herb garden. However, during the time when Luan Yu broke through to the core forging realm, the Golden House's strange phenomenon caused by the heaven and earth anomaly in the Golden House had pushed most of the ordinary spirit herbs to the brink of maturity. The 500-year spirit herbs all had their medicinal efficacy increased by 50 years. The 1,000-year spirit herbs had their medicinal efficacy increased by 20 to 30 years, and the 3,000-year spirit herbs had their medicinal efficacy increased by 20 to 30 years. Although the 3,000-year spirit herbs didn't seem to be affected at all, it was still enough to shock Lu Ping. The Wood Luan bird had the innate ability to grow spiritual herbs. No wonder. Another 2 months passed, and the spiritual qi in the cave mansion became chaotic again. The surrounding spiritual qi gathered towards a small golden hut in the middle of the cultivation room. This time, the momentum was much smaller, and the fluctuation of spiritual qi was only equivalent to that of a core forging Taoist master practicing a spell. However, this cultivator who was in seclusion didn't need to practice a spell for such a long time. When the cultivators around Lu Ping's cave dwelling saw the spiritual energy of heaven and earth converging towards the cave dwelling for 3 whole days, They all cursed Lu Ping for being a freak. Even a mid-core forging realm cultivator would run out of arcane energy after practicing spells for 3 days straight. Fortunately, the owner of the cave controlled the range of spiritual chi fluctuations during the spell practice, so it didn't affect the cultivation of the cultivators in the surrounding caves. A few days later, Lu Ping moved like a ghost in the space of the Golden House. One moment, he was on the top of Lonely Mountain, and the next moment, he was halfway up the mountain. When he looked back, Lu Ping had already disappeared from the top of the mountain. When he moved again, he appeared at the foot of the mountain again. After leaving Lonely Mountain, Lu Ping began to wander around on the plain in the space. At the same time, Lu Ping's hands made a few hand seals from time to time. There was a constant whistling sound in the space, and from time to time, a few ripples appeared in the surroundings along with Lu Ping's hand seals. The grass on the plain was inexplicably cracked, and the flowers and plants were broken into 2 pieces for no reason. Not far from the forest, there were trees that were tens of feet tall that fell with a loud bang. The broken sections were very smooth. As the hand seals in Lu Ping's hands became faster and faster, his figure flashed between nothingness and existence more and more rapidly. An invisible whirlpool appeared in the space out of nowhere. The grass and trees on the ground were sucked into the air, and then turned into dust and scattered around. On Lonely Mountain, a ray of light fell down. A handsome young man of 17 or 18 years old with a trace of shyness suddenly appeared on a grassland more than 1,000 feet away from Lu Ping. Then, he saw many grass, trees, and gravel were pulled into the air by an invisible force, and then suddenly broke, shattered, and shattered again. Lu Ping also seemed to notice the appearance of the young man. He stopped the hand seals, and the broken gravel and rotten wood in the air fell to the ground and piled up into a garbage hill of 30 feet high. His eyes were a little dazed as he said, "Brother Lu, do you know that if you dig up this golden core that I have just formed and use it to catalyze it in your 3,000-year-old spirit herb garden, it would be enough to catalyze the growth of more than 200 immature 3,000-year-old spirit grasses in less than 3 years." Lu Ping frowned and said in a hoarse voice, 3 years? How is that possible? Luan Yu turned around and smiled at Lu Ping. He said, "That's how it is. Brother Lu, you and I are both alchemists, so we naturally know how difficult it is to obtain 3,000-year-old spirit grasses for those Dharma idol Laozu. Nowadays, the Dharma idol Laozu in the world of practitioners can only use core medicines that are half a step to the Dharma idol stage. Core medicines for the Dharma idol stage are only used at the most critical moments and when they are in a difficult situation." At this point, Luan Yu did not need to say anything. Lu Ping could already guess. In that case, when these Dharma idol Laozu discover this secret of the Wood Luan race, they will hunt down the Wood Luan race practitioners in large numbers and use their condensed blood pearls, golden cores, and Dharma idol essence to catalyze 3,000-year-old spirit grasses and use them to create core medicines that increase their level of practice. "That's right," Luan Yu said with a smile. "Even though all the practitioners know that this is an act of killing the goose that lays the golden eggs, the best method is to let the Wood Luan race practitioners manage the spirit grasses. This way, although the spirit grasses in the world of practitioners will not be able to meet the needs of the practitioners, at least the spirit grasses in the world of practitioners will not become scarce. However, the ones who will lead the hunt are the Dharma adepts. This is because compared to the blood condensation adepts and core forging adepts, it is more difficult for a Dharma adept to advance in his level of practice. Using the essence of the Wood Luan race to catalyze 3,000-year-old spirit grasses is more valuable. At the same time, the most important thing is that Dharma adepts are the highest level of existence in the world of practitioners. When the Dharma idol Laozu of the various powers come to an agreement or form an unspoken rule, there is no one in the world of practitioners who can keep them in check. Therefore, they can do whatever they want. Therefore, the Wood Luan race has become their sacrificial pawns. Lu Ping looked at the young man in front of him in a daze. He did not think that Luan Yu would be able to tell him such a secret so easily. At the same time, he could vaguely guess the real reason why Yin Wujiu had entrusted Luan Yu to him. "Then, Brother Luan Yu, what are your plans from now on?" I can't go back to the fire lawn race. Now that Master is about to break through to the Dharma stage, he has no time to look after me. In fact, even if Master had reached the Dharma stage, it would be difficult for me to return. The fire lawn race is in chaos now, and the two factions of practitioners are fighting for power. There are many who covet me. Master is a rare alchemy grandmaster in the demon race. Although he has great prestige in the fire lawn race, before I reach the golden essence stage, Master could protect me for a while. Now that I have reached the golden essence stage, even if Master becomes the Dharma stage Laozu, he can't always be on guard against other Laozus. Therefore, I can only hide. Looking at Luan Yu's helpless expression, Lu Ping suddenly smiled and said, "Originally, I was a lazy person and really did not want to take care of these spirit herb gardens. However, in order to improve my cultivation, I had no choice but to learn alchemy. Coincidentally, I also obtained this spatial instrument. Since Brother Luan Yu is the best at managing the spirit herb gardens, then I will entrust it to Brother Luan Yu to look after it. Consider it the price for Brother Luan Yu to stay here for the night." Luan Yu chuckled, a trace of gratitude in his eyes. He said, "Well said." Chapter 317. It's a pity that Lu Qin won't be able to join in the fun. She likes to have fun. She will probably complain to me when she comes out. Luan Yu blushed and said, "Qin Air is still in seclusion. I'm afraid it will take her some time to break through to the core forging stage." Lu Ping smiled nonchalantly and said, "This is all thanks to Senior Yin Wujiu. Otherwise, little Lu Qin wouldn't have reached this stage." After advancing to the core forging realm, if little Lu Qin can unlock the Fire Phoenix clan's heritage memories, it will be of great help to her future cultivation. Luan Yu saw that Lu Ping didn't make fun of her, so she returned to normal and said, "If you didn't give her the pure blood pill, meridian strengthening pill, and essence expanding pill, I'm afraid she would have already formed her gold core. But this way, Qin Air will be able to go further after she reaches the core forging stage." Seeing that Lu Ping was looking in the direction of the portal, Luan Yu said, "Someone's visiting? You can go now. I'll tidy up this spirit grass garden. Speaking of which, you have to find a fixed spirit vein as soon as possible. This is the root of the spirit grass's ability to shorten the maturation period. My innate talent only plays a supporting role." Lu Ping walked out of the golden house and looked at the restriction formation outside the cave mansion. His eyes flashed. His eyes had fused with the clear spirit water and the clear jade water. He was only one step away from the three pure eyes. However, the protection formation was not a profound formation. Under Lu Ping's gaze, the cultivator who came to visit Lu Ping suddenly appeared in front of Lu Ping's eyes. Half a day later, Lu Ping and the cultivator who came to visit him left Qianyuan City and headed in the direction of the Fallen Secret Land. The Fallen Secret Land had 27 islands under the jurisdiction of the three families. Among them, the Soundwave Island, the Red Shadow Island, and the Sunglow Island were the foundations that Lu Ping had left behind before he went to Qianyuan City. Qi Lianying returned to the Fallen Secret Land after advancing to the core forging stage. Although she had changed her identity because she was wanted by the Crystal Palace, she still managed to contact some of her former subordinates through a secret channel. These old subordinates were loyal to Qi Lianying. However, after joining Lu Jiu on Soundwave Island, they were more or less unwilling. After all, Qi Lianying had reached the core forging stage first. These old subordinates hoped that Qi Lianying could establish her own sect. However, after Qi Lianying advanced to the core forging stage, her temperament changed drastically for some reason. After giving her old subordinates to Hong Ying and the others, she cultivated in seclusion all day long. Not to mention Hong Ying and the others, she didn't even meet her old subordinates. Fortunately, both Hong Ying and Yi Buki were powerful figures who could become the island owners of the 27 islands. In addition, after Wu Yin returned to the Fallen Secret Land, he brought a batch of half-step core forging pills and the news that Lu Ping had advanced to the core forging stage. Qi Lianying's old subordinates were barely able to control them. In addition, with the help of Yu Zhongrue, the alchemist, Hong Ying and Yi Buki's cultivation levels skyrocketed. They were only one step away from the core forging stage. Hong Ying's 4 Vajras and Yi Buki's 5 brothers had also reached the 8th or peak stage of the blood condensation realm. Qi Lianying's old subordinates had completely integrated into the Soundwave Island. On this day, Yi Buki and Hong Ying were instructing the cultivators on the Soundwave Island to practice the 3 talents 5 elements formation. Of course, this was not the Jinling Dao soldier formation. It was just an ordinary formation that Lu Ping had simplified from the 3 talents 5 elements formation. Hong Ying and the others used this formation to conquer 3 islands in succession during the years when Lu Ping was not around. Now, Soundwave Island was the most powerful of the 27 islands under the control of the 3 families. Just as the cultivators were about to practice the formation, 2 people suddenly walked out of the cave behind them. They were Qi Lianying and Yu Zhongrui. Many of the cultivators who were practicing the formation were Qi Lianying's old subordinates. Although Hong Ying and the others had integrated into the Soundwave Island, Qi Lianying still held an important position in their hearts. Seeing that Qi Lianying had finally come out of seclusion and advanced, they were overjoyed. They opened their mouths to call him boss. The originally smooth practice of the formation suddenly paused due to these people's absent-mindedness. Hong Ying snorted coldly and looked at Qi Lianying with dissatisfaction. He turned back and shouted, "The worst thing to do when practicing a formation is to be distracted. If you were in the middle of a battle, you would already be dead." The cultivators who were practicing the formation naturally knew how fierce the person in front of them was. They all felt a chill in their hearts. Just as everyone was guessing how Hong Ying would punish them, a powerful pressure suddenly descended on the Soundwave Island. This time, the cultivators who were practicing the formation were completely confused. Many cultivators were suppressed by the pressure and staggered. Some even retreated. Hong Ying and Yi Buki looked at each other. Hong Ying suddenly said with joy, "Young master is back." 2 flashes of light descended from the sky. Lu Ping and a cultivator who looked slightly older than him stood side by side on the side where the others were practicing the array formation. Hong Ying and Yi Buki hurried forward and bowed. "Greetings, young master." Lu Ping nodded and pointed to the cultivator next to him. "This is enlightened master Qiao Weiying." The 2 had met this enlightened master before. Lu Ping snorted and said, "The 3 talents 5 elemental array is broad and profound. You may have only scratched the surface, but if you practice diligently and gather the power of the array formation, you can completely resist a core forging enlightened master's divine sense pressure. You're still far from being able to practice this Dao soldier array formation." Hong Ying and Yi Buki hurriedly nodded. Lu Ping threw a jade slip over and said, "Hong Ying, this jade slip contains a fire attribute cultivation method that has been perfected to the late stage of core forging. It is most suitable for cultivators with the Pong bloodline. Take it and study it. At the same time, go get a 7-step mark pill and see if you can form your golden core in a short time." Hong Ying looked at the jade slip in his hand in disbelief. His cultivation had long reached the limit of the blood condensation realm, but his cultivation method was not complete. He could not take the last step and form his golden core. Now that Lu Ping had prepared a suitable follow-up cultivation method for him, how could he not be grateful? Yi Buki's expression remained unchanged, but his eyes flashed with envy from time to time. Lu Ping glanced at him and threw him a jade slip. "This is the complete fiery wind hybrid art. I prepared it for Wu Yin. Give it to him on my behalf." Yi Buki looked at the jade slip in his hand blankly. At this time, even Hong Ying felt something was wrong. Lu Ping and Xiao Weiying were already walking towards Qi Lianying and Yu Zhongrui. This is the eldest son of Senior Qiao Jingyin from the Dark Mountain Gang, Xiao Weiying. Lu Ping turned to Xiao Weiying and said, "Brother Qiao, these 2 are Qi Lianying and Yu Zhongrui." Xiao Weiying smiled at Qi Lianying and Yu Zhongrui and said, "I didn't expect the 2 of you to be on Soundwave Island. Brother Lu, you're really generous. I was a little worried about dealing with the Wang clan of the 3 Clans Island, but now the chance of winning has increased greatly." The chance of winning had increased greatly. After all, the chance of not dying was in sight. Lu Ping smiled. He knew that Xiao Weiying was still a little worried. After all, the Wang clan was backed by a giant like the Crystal Palace. When the 4 of them entered the cave abode, they heard Hong Ying yelling at the cultivators who were practicing the formation, Pay attention to the position under your feet. Pay attention to the connection of the formation. If there are any mistakes this time, I will twist your heads off. As soon as Lu Ping entered the cave abode, he felt that the spiritual qi inside was much denser. He looked back at Qi Lianying and said, "How many spirit veins did you find?" Qi Lianying nodded and did not say anything. Lu Ping looked at Qi Lianying strangely. Then, Yu Zhongrui said, "Hong Ying and Yi Buki conquered 3 more mini-islands and found 2 spirit veins. They used the formation to guide them over. Now, there are 5 spirit veins in the cave abode. Soundwave Island is also the biggest force among the 27 islands. It has attracted the attention of the 3 Clans Alliance. This is to attract their attention. This time, we will definitely drive the Wang clan out of the fallen secret realm." With the return of Lu Ping and the others, the morale of Soundwave Island was greatly boosted. A few days later, Hong Ying, Yi Buki, and Wu Yin, who was at the 8th layer of the blood condensation realm, each led a team of cultivators and conquered an island. Now, Soundwave Island's power had increased to 9 mini-islands and more than 100 cultivators. Among them, there were nearly 30 in the late blood condensation realm. 1/3 of the 27 mini-islands under their jurisdiction had been unified. Even when Qi Lianying was at his peak, he did not dare to challenge the bottom line of the 3-family alliance. Finally, the 3-family alliance could no longer sit still. The Zhang, Wang, and Li families all sent cultivators to stop the expansion of Soundwave Island. The 3 Clans Alliance's messengers were arrogant. On the surface, Hong Ying was the leader of Soundwave Island. He promised not to expand and offered a large amount of cultivation resources. Only then did he send the 3 cultivators back. In the following period of time, the 3 Clans Alliance was peaceful. Soundwave Island also quieted down. It was as if the 3 Clans Alliance still had absolute authority in the area under their jurisdiction. 2 months passed like this. In Soundwave Island's cave abode, the pressure of a core forging enlightened master rose again. Strange phenomena appeared in the sky. Hong Ying, the island lord of Soundwave Island, had successfully condensed his gold core, becoming a core forging enlightened master. This shocked the 27 mini-islands. The island lords of the other 18 mini-islands sent their subordinates to congratulate him. The Zhang clan, Wang clan, and Li clan didn't do anything. It was as if they didn't care about someone breaking through to the core forging realm. Just as the island master of Soundwave Island, Hong Ying, was holding a golden core banquet to celebrate his success in core formation, on the small island where the Zhang family was located, perfected Zhang Feng of the Zhang family, perfected Wang Hua of the Wang family, and perfected Li Maolin of the Li family were sipping tea in a cave. Soundwave Island must be completely obliterated. The 3 Clans Alliance can't have a core forging realm cultivator. Perfected Wang Hua placed the high-grade spirit tea in his hand on the sapphire stone table and said firmly, Li Maolin and perfected Zhang Feng took advantage of the moment when they raised their cups to taste the tea and casually glanced at each other before gulping down the spirit tea in their cups. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.